You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
All right, hello Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios. This is episode 280 of the Nightlines.
Wow.
Yeah, and I like the episodes that start with a 10. So 280 of the big show. We've done a bunch of other stuff, obviously, not so much in the past couple of years, but yeah, 280. That's pretty cool. Got a few more to go here before we turn it all down. Anyway, I don't know what I was going to say. I usually, I messed up that entire thing, kind of. So whatever. 280 on the Knightline Sports Network, award-winning Knightline Sports Network, blah, blah, blah. Did you just spit your drink out?
835. Hey, listen, as of last week, 835 of these that you've done, so... If you've done 835, you're okay to trip up every once in a while.
Yeah, not 835 Nightlines, actually 280.
No.
But yeah. In 280, I've screwed that intro up a few times.
The extras, the radio show,
all
everything else that goes along with it.
It is what it is. Anyway, I'm not in a good mood. I'll just let you all know right now. 34-13 loss to East Carolina. Not what I was expecting. Not at all what I was expecting. I went up to ECU, was expecting to get out of there with a big win and be able to party the night away. Nope, didn't happen. I felt very embarrassed and walking out of there, not going to say I wasn't scared at all walking out of there, but I was not looking forward to walking through their whole tailgating crowd to get back to where I was going. But it wasn't bad. ECU fans, a few people said a couple of things, but it was not bad at all. We had a good time. So, and I will get more into that. I guess, I don't know, should we go for Ask
on this week's show?
Oh, yeah, God. This is 2 weeks in a row that I've forgotten to let you, because you chimed in while I was doing my intro, so it threw me all off.
Oh, it's my fault.
I didn't even get to the Knightline Sports Network. Go ahead, though.
All right, so, and on this week's show, we ask the tough questions. What's really going on? Where do we go from here? We start the revenge tour to Declaw, the Bearkittens. We go inside the huddle with Knightline's football analyst Trey Neal, our random ramblings, your questions and Ask Knightline, the Tijuana Flats hot take of the week, and news and notes.
All right, so I'm going to start with the fun part of Ask Knightline here. Dolly Drama saved it for us again. We do have multiple questions, 2 questions at least, but Dolly Drama kind of fixed it again for us, so I appreciate that. And we can talk about something positive. He says, this is Dolly, at Dolly_drama on Twitter. If you're on the message board, you know Dolly Drama. Thank you for your question again. And giving us something.
He brings the drama and the meme game, so
exactly, yeah. He says, how was the ride up? That RV setup looks sensational, and the camaraderie to notch. Gus is 1-5 on the road now. Very bad start. Why the hell was Bowser returning kickoffs? Do you believe in Mojo? He's got a bunch of questions. So I'm going to start with the first part.
17 questions later.
Yeah, it's cool, though. I love it. I love it. How was the write-up? So I'm going to ask, I'll talk about that real quick. Travis and I and Rob and Bill and Travis's son all went up to North Carolina. We took the RV up. We left on Thursday evening, drove just into North Carolina, pulled over in a Walmart parking lot, pulled the slides out and went to bed. Got up early the next morning, made it to our campsite in North Carolina, which was nice. Went and had some barbecue, went to some bars and drank, and that was pretty much bars, drink, food at the campsite, blah, blah, blah.
Well, hold on. You've got to talk about the barbecue because of this whole barbecue controversy, and you've also got to talk about ECU or Greenville as a college town. So I'm going to let you run.
Barbecue, horrid. Like, we went to the best place, Bees. Bees was what everybody talked about. Bees. This is the place to go. They're a little tiny place that is kind of in somebody's house, honestly. And they're only open till the food runs out. I like places like that. I'm all about places like that. They open up a window literally on their house and I think it's a building, built off the house, but still it's basically in somebody's backyard. Had a pulled pork sandwich, and the way they do it there, a bun, pulled pork, coleslaw, and then their vinegar on top.
Well, they were a little light on the coleslaw if you saw the pictures.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's supposed to be, but that's the way I got it. So, the pulled pork wasn't horrible. I've had better. And I've had better, pretty much everywhere in Florida. So
Florida's not known for its barbecue, and I think you should put an asterisk on here and let everybody know, if they don't remember, that you are from Kansas and the Kansas City barbecue.
Everybody, if you've listened to 280 of these things, then you probably know that, because I probably 279 of them, I've probably said something about being from Kansas City and Kansas and eating the best barbecue in the world up there. So, it wasn't the worst pulled pork that I've had, but it wasn't the best. But this whole vinegar thing, like, it's literally almost straight vinegar. They may put some red pepper flakes or whatever in it. They may put some garlic powder in there or something. I don't even know what it is, but you pour this on there and you eat it, and I like South Carolina better barbecue, where they put the mustard in with the vinegar. I will say that. It wasn't. I kind of just felt like it was in my stomach for a long time, and it just wasn't too exciting. They did have these Hush Puppy sticks, though. They made them into like sticks. Those were good. Those were probably the best part. And then at another place that I went, I had some absolute killer fried pickles. I'm a huge fried pickle fan, and I had some of the best that I've ever had at this burger place. Somebody's burger bar. It was called Bill's Burger Bar or Bob's Burger Bar or something like that.
I'm sure there's only so many places in Greenville, North Carolina, so anybody who visited for a game probably knows where you're talking about.
Yeah. As a college town, we didn't really go in that area, game day over there as far as the bars, because they're quite a bit away from the stadium, like off campus. The campus is fairly large, I think. So that was a little bit out of the way to go before the game. We would have gone after the game, obviously, if we won, but since we didn't go, we just decided it probably wasn't the greatest idea. A bunch of drunk dudes wearing UCF gear, going to their parties. So I thought that was probably the best decision that we've made on one of these trips. So I had a blast on the trip.
Smart move.
Yeah, had a beautiful campground. It was nice to, we pulled a car with the RV on a trailer. It was a long trip, obviously. Riding up there, you can't go over like 70 something with the trailer and the car and everything. So long drive up, long drive back. Did you guys actually
stop at south of the border, or did you not?
We did, but it was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning by that time. So we were going to stay there, but the truck, their truck stop that they have there was all trucks. There was like not one RV in the whole truck stop. So we were kind of like, let's just go on and we'll keep going.
Let's just go to Walmart.
Yeah. So Walmart parking lots, if you don't know, if you have an RV, they're normally super cool about you pulling in and staying overnight. As long as you're
like up here in Santa Rosa, they do that all the time. Our small mart and our big Walmart, you always see RVs and stuff parked in the parking lot over there.
Yeah, there were some cool bars downtown though, or in the little district that they have for that. But I mean, besides that, nothing like super special.
So other than the loss, would you go back? Is this something that you would recommend for UCF fans to go?
Well, we're not going to be playing, ECU, thank God, for a long time, probably. If you're up there for some reason, possibly. I didn't take advantage of any of the amenities in the stadium, if there were any. I don't even remember. I just remember going to the seat and pretty much being horribly disappointed the entire time, and then we left. So,
wow.
It wasn't... I don't know. I don't think I would probably go back to Greenville. It's just not.
Did you like the stadium at least?
The stadium looked okay. It's like I don't know. They have a nice tower on the stadium, and then under the tower is like their workout room. There's the glass windows and stuff. It looks cool on the outside, I think, more than on the inside. It's got bench seats for the majority of the place, just like we do. It was kind of like I don't know, it's 60-something thousand seats, I think, and they only had 38,245 there, so it was kind of empty. They had all of us UCF people in like one corner if you bought tickets through UCF, which is best to just for, revenue purposes. I wasn't impressed with the stadium. Besides the way that it looked from the outside, it looks awesome when you're walking up from the outside, and if you're staring at that tower, that the tower is nice. It's like I don't know. I don't know what to compare it with. Stadiums.
Well, it's new, right? So it's been around a couple of years.
Part of it's new. Just the tower is new. They expanded their tower, so I don't know, like a Citrus Bowl with way more. With a bigger tower. I don't even know. It was
lots more purple lighting, right?
Yeah, it was. I'm never going back to Greenville. There's nothing for me to go back there for. So
that's funny.
Yeah. Good time though, and I love going on these road trips. I just wish that one day, the last two that Travis and I have gone up on, we have lost the game. So last year was Louisville. This year was this one, and it wasn't good.
Well, I would
say
have
an 8.5 hour, 9 hour drive back with stops, making it like almost 12 hours. It's, it was just a long road up there, long road back for a disappointing football game.
Well, the good news is I can share the blame for this loss because I went and met up with the Panhandle Knights at Harry T's up here to watch the game. The last time I'd done that, unfortunately, was the Pit Special. So I think both of us are banned from road trips. Well, I can't speak for you, but I spiked my hair for this game in the middle of the game. I did everything that I could do, and we still lost. So I don't know. I think maybe I just need to avoid Harry T's because we've lost both times that I've been to that get together. Nothing to do with the folks. The folks were awesome, and the place was awesome. It's just I think it's me.
Yeah, I don't know. So all right, next question from him. Gus is 1-5 on the road now. Very bad stat. Why the hell was Bowser returning kickoffs? He said something about that in the press conference. Somebody asked Bowser, I think Brandon asked Bowser after the game why he was returning kicks, and they were kicking it kind of short, and he was the up man. So that's kind of why. I don't know if I don't know why they made that change.
Well, it wasn't necessarily a change. They were kicking away from our normal returner. He actually returned some at the SMU game as well. So,
right, they
as
were
you
kicking
said,
it
he's the
to
up
the
back.
up man, though, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Do you believe in mojo? I absolutely 100% believe in mojo. The mojo was gone about halfway through the first quarter in that game. I believe that, and I thought about this a little bit earlier, I believe that we could have won this game in a shootout, but the rule number one in the shootout is you load your bullets in your gun, you don't drop them on the floor. So
wow,
that's basically what we do when we throw the ball to their players and interceptions and fumbles. So without that stuff, I believe this game was winnable. But if you were going to get in a shootout, you have to load your gun. You can't do this the way that we did it. So, and then the mojo of the whole thing, yeah. I mean, obviously Holton Akers or whatever the hell his name is. Ehlers.
I like Holton Akers. Let's stick with that.
Ehlers, whatever. I got his first
Holton
name
Ehlers,
right.
But let's stick
Holton
with Akers.
Ehlers,
I
yeah.
flubbed it last week too. Dr. Holton Akers.
His mojo was going. His mojo was going. But another thing that like I was worried about, and believe it or not, I don't know if I said anything about it last week or not. But the first thing when UCF put out the uniform combination thing, I was worried. I was worried from right then, whenever they put that little thing out saying, this is what we're wearing this week. No more gold helmets. No more gold helmets for a while. I loved the Florida logo, all that stuff, old school, but no more gold helmets. We do not do good in these gold helmets. Roger, did you? I think I was trying to get you to look up the stat on that or something. Did you ever figure out the gold helmet?
No, there were way too many. However, I can say with the combination of the gold helmet and that logo, we have lost 2 out of the 3 games that we have played since the original logo had been played. So I agree with you. Let's retire.
Have
that
we used that logo before? I didn't realize we had used that specific logo.
We've used it 3 times.
Okay, well, on gold helmets too, right? Once we had them on the black helmets, I remember, though. Black helmets.
And that was
logo,
fine. We won those
cool.
games.
Yeah, but the gold helmets used to be the big game gold is what they would call it. And
correct.
It needs to be retired or go away for a little while, at least. Because I think since the Peach Bowl, we won the Peach Bowl in those helmets. But since then, I don't think that we've done very well at all with them. So I'm not looking forward to ever seeing those helmets again until we switch that mojo. And maybe that's what he was talking
unfortunately,
about.
Terry Mohajir has brought back gold as a...
I'm just talking about gold helmets.
Highlighted.
Yeah.
No,
well,
I know.
I mean, it's black and gold. Of course. What do you mean, unfortunately, he's brought it back?
Well, we weren't really wearing gold for a while there, unless it was just the pants. We weren't wearing... we were wearing white jerseys. Now we have gold jerseys back again. And
have we worn the gold jerseys yet?
What's that?
Have we worn the gold jerseys back yet? Since you say
we
that
have
they're
not.
back?
I don't know if Nike was able to fabricate them in their factory overseas yet, but we've worn black and white jerseys.
Yeah, we're talking about the helmets though. So no more gold helmets. Were we caught looking ahead, he says. Abso-freaking-lutely we were caught looking ahead. This team played like they were caught looking ahead. They were like, we scored 70 points last week. We're going to do it again. Not with 4 turnovers, you're not going to. 3 interceptions and a fumble. Not with that. You're not going to do it. If you look at 99.9% of football stat sheets and one team commits 4 turnovers, that team very, very, very rarely wins, if ever, unless the other team turns up 5 or something like that. Maybe you can look that.
And, we talk about this with Trey a little bit. Early on, the first 2 turnovers, we were still in the game.
It was over. I knew it was over for JRP. I knew it was over for JRP after the fumble. It was done.
Well, that's
in my
the thing.
opinion.
That's the thing, right? Is JRP. But we still got within 7 points. So the defense did their job in making this a game that we could still win, I guess is my point. And I agree with you. His body language is completely different.
I don't know, though, if they did keep it where we could win it. I mean,
if you're within 7 points in
ECU
the third
scored
quarter,
on almost every drive that they went out there. They punted once. So how can you say that? How can you say that the defense held it where we won it or we could win it? They didn't.
Well, I would say this: the first 3 drives, they held them to 3 points, and they were within scoring distance. And one of those was a turnover. Another one was a drop where we should have gotten a touchdown.
Right, but if you look at the entire game, they punted once.
Oh, I agree.
So our red zone defense is not number 1 anymore, I don't think. Our third down defense that we were talking about, not very good anymore, I don't think. Pretty much
they
most
still
of
rank
our,
highly. It's just this game.
Our 14 points that
right.
Nobody in college football had done. We had the lowest average scoring against us. That's done.
It's 17 now.
Well, yeah, but it was 14 before. We were number 1 in that.
Right.
Akers or Ehlers or whatever his name, I should say.
Let's just go with Akers for the rest of the podcast. We're never going to see him again. The next time
Give
that
the
we're
guy
going to see
credit
him is
because he shredded us. He absolutely shredded us. Him and his receivers and their running backs, to be honest with you, shredded us. Absolutely shredded us.
Well, yeah. And we'll talk about that when we get to...
If you look at the stats, though, you would be a little confused until you saw the turnover line.
Well, let's talk about this real quick.
Let's not yet, because we're not through Dolly Drama's questions.
All right.
Did ECU just have more heart? Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's probably one of the biggest things. They were up for this game, and we were not. They went out there saying that they were going to beat us. The whole place was crazy. They were wearing these cool black uniforms. They felt good about it, and they went out there and beat us. They beat us in almost every, aspect of the game. So,
Super Bowl. This was their Super Bowl. I mean, Holton Akers, since we're going with Akers, has never. This is the first time I think on the podcast that we purposely screwed up somebody's name. I
don't know about that.
Holton
Maybe the
Akers,
first time you have.
True. Yeah, that's okay. That's the first time I have. We'll say that. Thank God we don't have tennis playing right now. But Holton Akers,
Green Acres is the place for. Anyway,
he had never beaten us, right? In the 17
Looks
tries.
Like Jeb from Green Acres.
There you go. He'd never beaten us. In every try, in any try that he'd played us. So I think that, and then you've got the 6 straight wins. We were tied 10-10. The bad part about this is, we lose the series until we meet again. And Holton Akers gets to go into retirement in Shady Acres with his Rogaine,
lifetime supply.
NLI deal.
Yeah.
What? With his NIL deal, with a win. So, look, this was okay. I'm not going to say this because it was a big deal to us because we had a lot on the line. I do think, back to his earlier question, that we got in our headspace after that 70-point win. And once we got in our headspace and they started putting up a fight.
It was a bigger deal to them.
Yeah, 100%.
Period. All right.
100%.
Dolly Drama does finish this out with a positive thing, though, and I appreciate that. So he asks, what was the best thing that I ate the entire time there on this trip?
Well, you already answered. It wasn't the barbecue.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say it was the best. I did say I had some really good fried pickles, some of the best I've ever eaten. But the best thing that I ate the entire time, it was like 2:00 in the morning. I thought the RV was burning down because I smelled barbecue. And I'm like, what is going on at 2:00 in the morning? Well, Travis Dever, decided to fire the grill up and made grilled some, like a rack of lamb. I know, believe it or not, 2:00 in the morning. This is what, Travis is a foodie. I'm a foodie. This is what happens on these things at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And I can say this as a participant in the tailgate, and thank you, Travis, for that. Shout out to you, bro. His food is excellent.
Yeah, I mean, he takes pride in what he cooks and all that. So he made these little lamb, what were we calling them? Like lamb, I don't know. But they were just, you had the rib and then just, a bit of little lamb medallions on the end of them. Lamb lollipops is what we were calling them. Now I remember.
Nice.
Those things were absolutely freaking perfect. It literally melted in your mouth. They were absolutely perfect. So that was the best thing that I ate. Nothing that came from Greenville, Nebraska, or wherever it was.
Nebraska.
North Carolina.
South Carolina. Hold on. Wait, which state are we in again?
No, the barbecue would have been better in South Carolina.
Oh.
Guarantee it. Yeah, so... That was
Take
the
that,
best
Pirates podcasts everywhere, wherever you are.
Yeah, well, no, I'll put barbecue. Really, I mean, I just wouldn't go back to get that barbecue. It's not. I mean, anybody can.
Can I tell you I'm disappointed in this because I actually enjoy Carolina style barbecue.
With the vinegar.
Yeah, and the mustard specifically. Like I know that's South Carolina, but it's Carolina style barbecue, and I love the slaw on the pulled pork. I mean,
that's North Carolina
my favorite
barbecue.
Way.
That is not South Carolina barbecue.
No, I know. But
South Carolina puts
the mustard style
I like
dressing
that.
sauce
I like that
is
a lot
good,
better.
and that's South Carolina.
Yeah.
But yeah, the slaw on the
Well, lots of people do that. That's not just a North Carolina
love it, dude.
thing. Well, that's good. Do you like vinegar? You like straight vinegar poured on your pulled pork?
I do like vinegar. I don't know about straight vinegar.
Nasty. All right. Anyway, moving on. So that was Dolly Drama's question, and then Black and Gold Ed.
Black and Gold Ed. Wow.
I just Black and Gold Ed. I did not. That was an accident. I just misspoke.
It happens.
Maybe I'll edit that out. That was just.
We said no edits this year. Remember?
I did not at all mean to say that. That was weird. Anyway, what caused the epic ECU embarrassment? That was his question, and I was like, well, we're definitely going to talk about that. So I appreciate it, though. Appreciate the questions from both of you. Yeah, I just think, in general, consistency, and we talked a lot of, that was the word of the Trey interview. Pretty much everything that we said had the word consistency in it, and this just was absolutely not consistent. So I replied to somebody on Twitter earlier, and did I say that in the show? Or maybe I said it in the Trey interview, but I replied I would do anything for a JRP consistent game.
You did say that in the interview with
I wasn't
Trey.
sure, if I actually said that or not. He is great when he gets out there and he's feeling it and like having fun and making passes and feeling confident. But when he feels unconfident or not confident is when things go really downhill. So obviously the drop there on the first drive, the long pass that Griffin dropped, I thought that was like, oh boy, here we go. And then the interception, oh boy, here we go. And then the fumble, and I'm like, it's over. JRP will not recover from this. And it's hard. It's hard to do that, and it's hard as a quarterback, but you've heard announcers that you listen to, commentators say it for years and years and years and years. A quarterback has to have a very short memory. You cannot get down on yourself. You cannot go out there and think about the last throw that you made. It's the next throw, the next throw, the next throw. It cannot be about any of those that were before, touchdowns or interceptions or whatever. You cannot think about the stuff that happened before. You have to think about what's going forward. And this is what I've said all along. I've said this all along during this. JRP is extremely inconsistent. The only thing he's consistent on normally is running the ball, holding on to the ball. And, I don't know. I think he fumbled in another game. I believe he's fumbled one other time.
He has, and there's been other times that he's fumbled, but we've recovered.
But one or two of these interceptions were because of a bad choice. One or two of them was because he overthrew the ball, overthrew the receiver, or underthrew the receiver. One of them he shouldn't have thrown at all. So I don't know what to do. It's all just so frustrating to me because we've seen what this team can do. We've seen it a couple of times, what they could do. And then we've seen them look really crappy 2 times. Those crappy ones were big games that we've lost. This was a big game. This had a lot, going on it. We talked last week about the whole game day thing, where game day was probably going to come to Orlando. And then
it's not a probably. They were going to. They went to Jackson State instead. And I can tell you this from quote-unquote sources.
Well,
we would have been playing in a game day game had we won this game.
Right.
Period.
Right. Yes.
I was trying to allude to it last week without being overly...
Well, what's his name said it on the freaking show. He said it.
Oh, yeah, Lee Corso.
Lee Corso said it accidentally, I guess, or dropped a big hint. So we knew it was going to happen. We had to win this game, and we did not at all. We looked horrible. Horrible. Going from wow to the only word that I can say is horrible. That's not good. Not good. Consistency is the way you win games. And we've got multiple issues with consistency.
Well, I'll kind of wait on my take. I'll kind of wait on my take on this one.
Why?
Well, because I have a lot behind it. But I will say this. The reason we lost, turnovers.
Obviously.
And time of possession.
Obviously.
Yep, turnovers and time of possession.
All right, we're done. Thanks for listening.
No,
I mean, really, we could have done the show like that. We could have come on here and said, 4 turnovers, you don't win the game, and time of possession. They had 10 more minutes of possession during the game.
Was as a result of the turnovers.
11 minutes to 3 minutes in the first freaking quarter. 11 minutes to 3. Of course it was because of the turnovers.
All right, since we're going down this path.
Let's go down the path. We might as well.
Let's go down the path.
We're talking about it.
Okay, so this was not a bad game by UCF's offense. This was not a bad game by UCF's defense. This was a combination in my mind. And look, if you looked at our game day text thread, right, that would be one thing. And I purposefully sat back, didn't go back and look at the stats. I didn't look back at anything because I wanted to feel it, right? This game more to me was more about a feeling than it was about the stats, right? Because the feeling was we got our butts whooped. That was the feeling I got from the takeaway from this game. Okay. And being a fan, that's what it's about, is the feeling that you get. However, today, I went back and looked at the stats because, you guys all know I'm a stats guy, right? This was not a bad game by UCF. There was a lot of parity when it comes to UCF versus ECU. In fact, our offense was more efficient than ECU overall. However, it goes back and it points back to the original question, why did we lose this game? Less about time of possession because we were more efficient with that. However, time of possession allowed them to score. More about our turnovers. And when you play Division I football...
I'm sorry. I just went back and looked at the text thing, or our little text group.
Thread. Yeah.
I can't say it on here. I said, this place is a blank hole with a tower. That was my first impression of the stadium.
There you go.
The other thing I said was zero atmosphere. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. We didn't even go back and ask. We were so caught up with our interview with Trey. We didn't even go back and ask him what his notes on the game were. So I apologize for that in advance when you get to that. However, it's funny because I sent that in that same text group. I sent a message. I said, let's not look like this week. It's not going to be about looking about the stats. It's about how we feel about the game. Right. And I feel like, and for me, that's, and Andrew can attest to this, that's a tough conversation to have because I'm a stats guy. I want to look at the numbers. I want to understand why, like where did we go wrong? Right. And, what I take from this game, my overall take from this game is I felt terrible about it. I felt like we got whooped.
We did.
But we really didn't.
Oh, we
did. Statistically, we didn't. We just made mistakes.
No,
right.
If you looked at the stats and you didn't see the turnover column, I think I said this before, you would be confused at how we lost.
I think this is ECU playing the top of their game because it's their Super Bowl, and this is UCF. To your point, and to Trey, I do think we overlooked them, right? Which, in a way, I'm glad that the team was humbled because hopefully that brings out the hunger when we play Cincinnati. Because if you asked me at the beginning of the season, would you rather be ECU or Cincinnati? Obviously, the answer is I want to beat everybody. However, I would rather beat I'd rather beat Cincinnati. And I think Gus feels the same way. So statistically, okay, despite 10 minutes in disparity in time of possession, total yards, 458 to 426, passing yards, 311 to 296. And in spite of the turnovers, completion percentage, 83.3. That just blew my mind. Holton Akers got his hover round out, and 83.33% completion percentage, right? And the reason he did that was because he got the ball out fast. And we talk about that with Trey, so I'm not going to go too far into that. JRP, 67.57% completion percentage.
With 3 interceptions.
Right. But my point is, if I told you that JRP went into a game and let's round up to 68%, completed 68% of his passes, threw for almost 300 yards, you'd say we'd win that game 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Right? So we went away from our normal percentage split. 54% of our plays were passes versus 46. We're usually 64 or 60-40, and part of that was because we were playing from behind. Yards per pass, Holton Akers, 8.6. JRP, 8. The big difference was interceptions thrown, 0 versus 3. Rushing yards, 147 for them versus 130 for us. Rushing attempts, 33 versus 32. Yards per attempt, 10.4. Guess what? We got 11.8. We were more efficient in our running game. Offensive plays, 69 to 69. Our offense was as effective as what ECU's was. The difference was the turnovers. Penalties, 3 for 20, 3 for 28.
Our defense also let them run for 311 yards on us. One guy had CJ Johnson had 311 yards receiving. They ran for 147. I had the wrong thing. CJ Johnson, 11 catches for 140 yards.
And CJ Johnson is their guy.
Well, duh.
He's been with Holton Akers since they were in high school.
Right.
And he's going to be playing on NFL. But again, 311 yards versus 296 for UCF.
Yeah.
With 10 minutes disparity, 10 minutes of offensive plays.
That's what 3 interceptions does for you. 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 100%. Get this, though. Get this.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just feel like I need to throw this in there at this point. Plumlee
Go for it.
Went from the week before 7 touchdowns. Remember, 7 touchdowns responsible for. A couple through the air, a couple on the ground, 7. Guess how many this week? 0. That's crazy, right? But he gave it to him 4 times. He gave them the ball 4 times.
Well, it's not just that, but there's also a 5th, right? Because Jalen Griffin, if he would have caught that pass, and that was a catchable
that would have been a
pass.
touchdown.
It was more than a catchable pass. Huh?
There would have been a touchdown. Or it would have led to a touchdown.
100%.
He dove for it.
He had wide open grass in front of him. There's no reason as an FBS receiver for you to drop that ball. There were 3 drops again. Remember that 3.4 number? Last week, 0 drops. This week, 3 drops. 2 to Ryan O'Keefe. Now,
well, one of those was like a weird botched freaking reverse thing that turns out
but
to
there's
be
no
incomplete
reason
pass.
he should. It was a shovel, not a shovel pass. What do you call it? I can't remember. But anyway, he should have. I mean, it was in his hands. He bobbled around in his hands, and then he dropped the ball. He should have caught that. That should have been a first down. That being said, 60. Here's the real difference for me, other than the turnovers. The opponents. 64.29% on third downs converted. They pulled in some circus catches. I mean, this was not a normal game. This was an abnormal game, and that leads to 83% completion percentage.
Did you see the one where C.J. Johnson almost was on his butt when he caught the ball?
Yes, there were 2 of them like that,
falling and in a really weird angle, but the dude has I don't know who Spider-Man hands or something like that. The ball just I don't know how he
played
does
his best game.
He's
Holton
a great
Akers,
receiver.
Holton Akers played his best game. They had a couple receivers that were 6'2" or whatever, right? But 64.29. We average 30% on third downs converted.
Yep.
Now UCF 50% third downs converted. If you convert 50% of your passes, have almost 500 yards, you're going to win most games. Fourth downs converted, we had 3, 66.67%. Again, we were keeping drives alive. The difference was the turnovers.
Yep.
That 100% was the difference for this game, was the turnovers. And so when you look at it from a stats perspective, this team played well. And PFF, we haven't even gotten into that yet. PFF, this was a highly rated game. This wasn't our worst game on offense or defense. And our offensive line did well.
Offensive, it was our 3rd worst game.
3rd worst out of 6.
Yeah. So middle of the
50%.
road. Yeah.
And that's with 3 turnovers.
Yeah. Sometimes these PFF stats are weird, though.
Now, here's what jumps out to me about PFF. Here's what jumps out to me about PFF. Our leading receivers, or the highest rated receivers, RJ Harvey and Johnny Richardson, which Johnny Richardson only got 4 plays during this game. Now, Bowser, as a running back, the first few series, he did well. He was bowling guys over. You could see what the game plan was. However, as the game progressed, we had to go to the passing. We don't pass 37 times. We average 19 to 20 when we win games.
Because we're usually not from behind.
Exactly.
So far with 4 turnovers.
So what were my keys to the game last week? Do you remember?
I don't, because I don't listen to you half the time.
All right, there you go.
Just joking.
So maintaining the edge, maybe you should start. Maintaining the edge, right, which we didn't.
I don't know about that.
Elliott ran all over us to the edges. He did not run between the tackles, and so did our quarterback. Get out ahead. Get them to play from behind. Had we not turned the ball over, we would have had that.
You could say
Limit
those
the
things
turnovers.
basically for pretty much any football game, though. Just so
No, that's not true, because not all teams are the same. That's not been the keys to my game. That wasn't my keys to the game for SMU, because they didn't play that way. Turnovers, limit the turnovers. What happened? We got the turnovers. Pressuring and maintaining lanes. We weren't able to do that. The edge was completely cut off. This is the first game where I saw our team not maintain the edges at all. We talk about Trey with it a little bit as we go along. The offense was efficient. It was more efficient than what ECU was. They had turnovers, which negated that.
None of it matters if you don't turn over the ball.
Well, I agree with you. But when you're talking about...
You can sum up this game in a single thing, we had 4 turnovers. And you're
not going to win a lot of games in NCAA football, even though we could have still won this game.
Yeah, I'm so mad.
And that sums up the entire game right there. That sigh. If I could record it and play it back and
trust me. It was recorded. You can keep it.
You need to isolate that and just like play it again and say, anybody ever mentions this ECU game again, you just play that sigh back. That's it.
That's
you don't have to say anything
right
else.
Now. I've watched this game probably I'm watching it right now, and it's probably the 5th time I've watched it today. I spent pretty much all day watching this game just because I wanted to. It's hard to see from the stands. You see a lot better. What I saw from the stands, we played a lot better than we did after watching it on TV. When you can see the whole thing, I didn't have a very good spot. We were like in the sixth row on the first level, so I couldn't really see that well. But
if you look at it, PFF, everybody grades high. Even the passing grade JRP, 70.8 for a passing grade, which is high for a quarterback. That's excellent.
Was it Georgia Tech when we only had like 14 rushing yards or passing yards? Was it Georgia Tech? That's why it was
Georgia Tech.
The PFF score for that game was 54.3. This game was 67.3
overall.
Yeah.
But the individual performances were great. I mean, look at it.
I don't know if great.
Well, I mean,
in fact, nobody in their thing where it says 90 and above is elite, 80 to 89 is great. 70 to 79
89.4, 86.3,
well,
85.2.
I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at snaps played overall offensive players right now.
Okay.
So what were you looking at?
That was just the offensive line. But, I mean...
Oh, yeah. 3 of them were in the 80s. Yeah.
I mean, if we're looking at team
that wasn't the problem. Offensive line was not the problem in this game. It really wasn't. I thought it was. I figured it was. I figured, holy crap, he's just running around out there like, because nobody blocked. But he's got all kinds of time in most of these throws.
And that's what's crazy to me.
Almost had a 5th interception or a 4th interception right there.
But I don't know if that's the receivers not getting open because we've had a problem with that. Like, if you look at the team offensive grade, like 67.3, which is still good.
I think it's our quarterback not knowing where to throw the ball. There are wide open receivers that just are like looking and waving at him, and he doesn't see them.
I'm not disagreeing with you because, we talk about this. Or
not being able to get the ball to them.
We talk about this with Trey. I mean, if you look back at it, Georgia Tech was 54.3. Team offensive, PFF.
That's what
Louisville was 64.5. We had 67.3 overall. And him, for JRP alone, was 70 in spite of turning the ball over as many times as he did.
75.0.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. This is why PFF...
And defensive was 70.3. This team played well. They just had turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, pressures. We had 8-9 pressures. So we were getting after Holton Ahlers. To me, or Akers, sorry. I forgot about that. To me... Holton Akers was the difference in this game because he had quick reads. He knew what the defense was doing. He got the ball out.
What is he?
What's that?
What is he? A consistent quarterback.
He's not a consistent quarterback.
He was in this game. He was in this game. 30 of 36. I know. I know what you're saying.
No. But when he played, where I was going with that was when he plays from behind. That's why I said the key, one of the keys to this game was getting ahead early. And when we had the turnovers that stopped that, because we stopped them to 3 points and 3 possessions, and we had 2 touchdowns that got negated. It would have been 14-3.
Yeah. Do you think that Holton Akers is better than a better quarterback than John Rice?
I think he's a more experienced quarterback than John Rice because I've watched him play the past 6 games against us. I don't know if it's actually 6, but it's at least 4.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah, it's at least 4 games that he's played against us, and he has not played better than JRP played this game. He's had turnovers. He's a big body. I think this was the culmination of Holton Akers last year in college football after he's got his postdoctorate degree, right, in multiple. His hairline has completely gone back. I think this was just a quarterback and a receiver combo. CJ Johnson, he's been playing with him since high school, right? Yeah. This was a culmination of a great game by an offense that got ahead of time. If we would have gotten them on their heels and we would have scored because we were moving the ball at will, if we would have scored instead of turning the ball over, this would be a completely different game. This would be a blowout of ECU, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it boils down to. But this is football, 60 minutes. And stuff happens, right? But when we go back and we look at what JRP did, again, the difference between this game and SMU was him being able to go through his progressions. And he had time. The offensive line gave him time. And you saw in the second half. I mean, you saw him in the third and fourth quarter, the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter. He was moving the ball. And he had great throws. He was on time. He knew where he was going, etc. The difference is Holton Akers was able to look at the defense, say, hey, look, this is where I'm going on the first read. It didn't give time for our defense, which normally has time to get after the quarterback. He threw the ball there. And on top of that, it was their night. 83% of your passes completed with 36 attempts. You don't do that unless you're having a great night. That's a special night at FBS football. The defense is not
having a very good night either.
I agree.
As far as that goes, so.
All right. I think we've beat this one to death. What do you think?
We're getting there. Yeah. I do want to. There are a few people that had really good games, though. RJ Harvey had a really good game.
Absolutely.
Third in rushing, only 6 carries for 33 yards. Only lost a yard during the whole thing. Longest was 12, averaged 5.3. But then when you look at his receiving, 7 receptions, 77 yards, as long as being 16. So he caught the ball more than he ran it. More of a wide receiver than a running back in this game, which that's impressive to me.
That's checkdowns, but it's also, the thing that makes RJ Harvey different. We talked about this when he first started coming back. He reminds me of a combination of Otis Anderson, right? Hold on, and Greg McCray. And here's why. Greg McCray's, as his NFL combine proved, he wasn't that fast, but he knew how to find his blocks and he was patient. RJ Harvey can find his blocks and he's patient. And on top of that, he's got good burst when he hits the hole. Like his first step is fast. He's not fast overall like AK, but he's got that first step and he can leave you. Yeah. And that's what I saw out of RJ Harvey. He's got a bigger body. He's got a bigger body than both AK and Otis Anderson. So, when you're looking at them and you're looking at recent running backs and trying to compare them and rest in peace, Otis. Obviously we all have a lot of love for him.
That's why I don't want to compare anybody to him.
I know it's hard.
That's why
but,
I was
but at the same time, it's like, look, let's not make his.
He was
career
a very, very special football player, though.
Yeah,
with,
but
with everything that he did.
Yeah, and let's not make it about his passing. Let's make it about
being
the success he had.
Yeah, being a guy that can fill both roles, I think, is where you were going. That
100%. He proved
sure.
that.
Yeah. So Harvey definitely could do that.
I feel, and that's why RJ Harvey, and we said this at the beginning of the season, he was the number 1 running back before he got hurt last season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you saw that in this game. So, at the end of the day, what happened. Akers had the game of his life. CJ Johnson had the game of his life. How do we move forward from here, and how does this impact the team? Because we've still got Tulane ahead of us. This week we've got Cincinnati, and I will be at that game, and I will be in my seat standing for that, by the way, for anyone who's out there. And the AAC is still within our grasp. We may have lost this game, but that doesn't mean that we can't win the championship game. And hopefully, it's been 4 teams, like 4 sets of years, that everybody has won an AC championship. Obviously, game day's out the window, but we still have the conference championship ahead of us. So, 1, support the team. 2, show up. 3, where do we go from here? Wow, I stumped Andrew.
No, you didn't stump me. I'm still quite upset, and I'm watching this game. Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to win the rest of them. Period. If you want to win the conference championship, and I mean, I love that as a goal, blah, 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 but
and
I just it's
you don't think this team can do it?
I don't know. I don't know if they have the consistency or the heart to come back, and I don't know. We haven't gotten.
I think they have a choice.
We haven't gotten beat like this in a long time. I don't think.
I don't think we got beat.
It's been pretty bad.
I don't think we got beat bad. I think the team. I think we got beat worse at Louisville than we did here. I think that the difference was execution. You had a team in ECU, and for me, this is what encapsulates this game. They played their best. We played
second to worst.
We played well, but we didn't execute well. We didn't finish. And I think that's the thing. And for me, I hope it leaves a bad taste in their mouth, because it left a bad taste in my mouth. And when I played, if I ever lost a game like this, it certainly would, because I want them to take it out in Cincinnati. And I think that Gus wants them to take it out in Cincinnati after last year.
What about Gus saying after the game, Jason Beatty asked him point blank, did you ever think about taking Plumlee out? No, I didn't. I didn't think about it. Ever. Nope, not once, is what he said.
So do you think that it's an option?
It's always an option. If a guy is it's always an option. Well, why is it not an option? That's my question.
Okay. Well, the same thing I've been saying all season.
I mean, I know that he's old school and he wants to play his guy and he wants to get him experience and blah, blah, blah. But if you know the guy's not...
with that.
What do you think? Okay, Roger, tell us your thoughts then of
you want me to pontificate?
Why Gus said that.
Okay, I'll tell you why I think Gus said that. I think Mikey Keene's sitting on the bench and he's going to transfer because he knows this is not his system, and Gus is not going to turn back. I think he's used 4 games on Castellanos, and he's going to try to keep him redshirted as long as possible. And there's an argument to be made one way or the other on that, right? But I think that Gus has moved beyond Mikey Keene. Not because Mikey Keene's a bad player, but more so because Mikey Keene was recruited under Heupel's system and would be a better quarterback for that system, and he's not Gus's guy.
I wasn't looking for Mikey Keene to come in if somebody was going to come in, just so you know.
Well, and I don't think he'll put Castellanos out there as long as possible. I think he saves him because I don't think he's ready. I don't think Castellanos is ready. I think he's capable, but I don't think he wants to throw this season away when we're still in the championship hunt. And you've got a guy that puts up 70 points and however many yards.
But if the dude is having a bad day, and he was having a bad day. I mean, 3 interceptions and a fumble. And I mean, he should have taken him out long before he got to the 3 interceptions and a fumble, personally. At least, we've said this for years. We've always said this. When a coach keeps a quarterback in for too long, we've always said, why not just let them come over to the side of the field and go back and look a little bit. We've said this with McKenzie. We've said it with who knows who else. Dylan Gabriel. We said it a lot with Dylan Gabriel. We said it with everybody else that's played quarterback in this system. This would have been the perfect time to let him come out and just maybe see a couple plays. You know, it would have to be Mikey Keene. Mikey Keene, newsflash, it's going to be either Mikey Keene or Castellanos that comes out if JRP gets hurt. We all know this, not newsflash. That's why I said newsflash. It's going to be one of the two of them. Mikey Keene was on the sideline in pads.
I don't think we ever see Mikey Keene again. I think
do.
We see Castellanos.
No, because who do you put in there when we're up and we want to get JRP off the field? Like if we're up by a lot, where we've seen Castellanos so far, who do you do that with if you're not going to do it with him? You do it with Mikey Keene. He's got 4 games he can play.
I agree with you from that perspective.
You're going to have to.
I 100% agree. You preserve the red shirt as long as you can.
I don't really care about these red shirts anymore. The red shirts are not that big of a deal anymore because players move around so much that it's.
I think they do because it burns. Well, think about it this way.
Players?
Think about it from a player's perspective, right? They have the ability to transfer now. They can transfer without any one time.
I understand how all this works.
Right.
I understand that.
So to me, if I'm Mikey
Keene, as a coach, I don't care about what the players think as far as that goes. I don't care. In fact, if I knew somebody was transferring at the end of the year because they didn't like how they didn't get on the field, they would not even be dressed. If I really cared about what they thought and how they wanted to transfer next year, if Mikey Keene said that to me as a coach or implied that to me as a coach, he wouldn't even be out there in a uniform. Why? Why is that interesting?
Well, because
if he doesn't want to contribute to the playing the game, I guarantee you Mikey Keene wants to participate, or he wouldn't be out there with a uniform and pads on.
Well, I agree. I don't think this is a Dylan Gabriel situation at all, right?
I mean, we all know that yes, Mikey Keene is probably going to transfer after the year's over, but Castellanos could transfer too. You never know. There's a quarterback that is not on the roster. Well, he's on the roster, but he's not. You don't see him that we're all forgetting about. Timmy McClain is a really good quarterback. He's redshirting this season. It's not a given that Castellanos is going to win the starting job next year. It's not a given that Mikey Keene's going to transfer. That's what we think, probably. But if Mikey Keene is still physically here, he can be put into the game. He's got 4 games. You don't just go in one time anymore and burn your red shirt.
And see, I think
Castellanos has played his 4 games. Winning season is more important than some dude's red shirt, in my opinion. Like, way more important.
Okay. So can I interject?
Sure.
So the reason I feel it's different is less about the fact of Mikey Keene in his red shirt because he can play 4 games, as you pointed out. I don't think Gus plays Mikey Keene unless JRP is hurt and we feel like a conference championship is on the line. Because
a conference championship is on the line.
It's not. We can still beat. No, we can't.
Line. From going forward from now on, you're
Now
not
on,
going
yes.
to win. Yeah, we're talking about now. We're not talking about last week. We're talking about now.
I agree with you. That being said, what Castellanos has put on film and you don't know, you and I both don't know what the conversations were between Gus and Mikey Keene.
I never said
What
I did.
What I do know is that Mikey Keene cannot run the offense the same as Castellanos. So by your logic, I would rather
How do
put
you know
Castellanos
that?
Because I saw him last year.
And have we
That's
seen
not
him
his
once
skill set.
this year?
No.
Have we seen him once this year? Did you watch his high school tape?
You know I did because I did all the background.
And how
on
did
him.
he do in his high school tape? He ran the
did,
damn
but
ball.
he didn't run this type of offense.
He ran the ball. He ran as a quarterback. He was not just a specific pocket passer. We have not seen him this year. We don't know what he has. We have no idea what he has in that sophomore or freshman to sophomore year that we talked about for freaking, like, I don't know how long with him. I can't wait to see the sophomore to from freshman, thing.
It's a sophomore jump.
We have no idea. We have no idea what he has and what he doesn't have. We do know.
So
we do know. Listen, stop for a second and let me talk. Listen to me. All we know is that Plumlee came in as a transfer and can really, really, really run the ball. But besides that, does he really have a better arm than Mikey Keene? Does he really have a better arm than Castellanos? I don't think so. I don't think he has a better arm than either one of those guys. Mikey Keene, as a freshman, made some freshman mistakes, but has not had any opportunity as a sophomore yet. Castellanos has gotten in there, obviously, wanting to get some game time, wanting to get 4 games worth of game time in garbage time. And we've done that. But you cannot say that that Mikey Keene can't run this offense. You can't say that because you do not know that. You're not in practice. You're not, behind closed doors. You're not whatever. All we saw of Mikey Keene was the spring game, maybe. I didn't see it. I wasn't there. I was working, unfortunately. But that's all we've seen. So nobody can say that he can't do this, he can't do that, because we don't know that. All we know is Gus had this guy come in and transfer, and he can really run the ball with his feet, which is probably not what Mikey Keene can do. Right? Am I right?
Let me know when you're ready for me to answer. I'm letting you go.
Well, you kept interrupting me, and I'm trying to make a point here.
I know, and I'm waiting for you. Let me know when you're ready.
I ask you a question, so that means I'm ready.
Okay. So, my opinion. And again, these are opinions, and we all know what they're like, right? Everybody's got one. So, I'm gonna take this 2 ways.
I'm not saying, by the way, that Mikey Keene should replace Plumlee. I'm not saying that at all. I am saying every once in a while, a quarterback, especially when you're having a crappy game like he had, throwing the ball to the other players and dropping the ball, needs a little bit of a check on the sideline by somebody. And we talked about that a little bit with Trey later. Sorry, I hated to interrupt. I just wanted to make that clear. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Because I agree with you. I think it would have benefited him to take a few steps back and get some coaching and whatever, right? So my take on this, Mikey Keene has already said, hey, I'm not.
Has he said that? Do you know that?
No, like I said,
has he said?
My opinion.
You just said that, though.
My opinion.
How can you say that without knowing that? Why would you even offer that up? Because that's not true, and you don't know that.
Because I said my opinion. So my opinion and my read on all of this, okay, is, well, I mean, do you want me to give my opinion or not?
You give your opinion.
Okay, so my opinion on this in reading the tea leaves and everything that I've seen so far this season. Castellanos, as you said, first thing you said was, who has the better arm? I agree with you that I think Castellanos has the better arm from what I've seen, at least in the SMU game. I 100% agree with you. I don't think that Castellanos or Gus is ready to ride Castellanos for the rest of the season. I think he wants to give him some more experience.
Never talking about the rest of the season. I was talking about 2 plays.
I know, but this is where I'm going with it. I promise you, I'll get there. I'll get where you are. So Castellanos, I 100% agree with you, has a better arm. I do not believe, based on what I've seen this last season, and again, to your point, we haven't seen it in practice, but I do believe that Gus would put Mikey Keene out there if he felt like he gave us the best chance to win. I don't see that Mikey Keene, and again, I said this at the very beginning of the season, the reason Mikey Keene is not the starting quarterback at UCF is because Gus is ready to install our system and keep our system, and he is not performing in the way that he wants him to with regard to our system and Gus's system. So when we're talking about who we put in this game,
why don't you put you could put what's his name in there as a Wildcat? You could put anybody in there as a Wildcat. You could put
you talking about Bowser?
Yeah, Bowser. You could put O'Keefe. You could put anybody in there to let Plumlee come out for a little while and stand there and think about it. Anybody.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
So it doesn't mean Mikey Keene. I'm not saying that Mikey Keene should be the starter. I am not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying that if it all goes down and you want to keep a red shirt should not freaking matter. It should not matter, especially if a player wants to transfer. Screw his red shirt. That's one of my biggest points I wanted to make here. I'm sorry I'm screaming. I'm so pissed off. And not at you, Roger. I love you. Just so you know.
I know.
I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at this whole freaking situation. I am so pissed off that we have a quarterback that can go out and be responsible for 7 touchdowns. Like, the world is his. Like, he could do anything that he wanted to do.
737 yards the last game.
Right. And then comes out here and totally screws it up and doesn't have any repercussions, or there's no thought of pulling him. That doesn't make any sense. To me, it makes no sense. That's my opinion. My opinion is that just something.
So the question is,
like,
if you pull the trigger, who do you put in, Andrew? Do you put Mikey Keene in, or do you put Castellanos in? Because I have my answer, but I want to hear yours.
From what we've seen, you would obviously put Castellanos in.
Okay, we're on the same page then.
We were on the same page the entire time. The red shirt doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who cares about a red shirt? We've got other players. Like, with the transfer thing and everything the way that it is now, the red shirt is not as important, nearly as important. It may be important to the player, but it's not important to the season and the team.
And I think that's the key. I think it's more important to the player. And one thing that you do have to do, I think, with this ease of transfer and the transfer portal and NIL, which we are disadvantaged at, is you do have to consider the player more so than you would in the past.
So you lose a conference game, you lose a conference championship, you lose the chance at a New Year's Six Bowl because of what a player wants? Because a
I don't
player
think
is
Gus
being
cares
selfish?
about the New Year's Six Bowl, to be honest. I feel like he's worried about the championship game. So if, let's say, next week we play against Cincinnati and the same thing happens, God forbid, I'm knocking on wood. God forbid the same thing happens, I think you see Castellanos out there playing.
I'll be shocked if I don't know. I'm not sure. I would rather, I guess. I'd like to see what Mikey King can do. I'm shocked that we haven't seen him come in backup yet. As far as Gus even saying in press conference and stuff, he's clearly number 2. He's clearly number 2. He has to understand the offense. He's over there calling in plays. Like,
all I can say is 6.7 yards per pass last season.
As a freshman.
This
is
it.
What no.
But in a different style system. Last year, what did we do?
As a freshman that came in off the bench that never even thought of playing. Thought of playing.
I agree. And we completely tailored the system around Mikey Keene's capabilities.
As a freshman.
I understand.
But this is the thing. You're comparing what he did last year to what is possible for him to do this year, which we don't know about. We have no idea.
Exactly, and that's where you have to trust Gus and his decision-making. To me, that's indicative, and that's more of a judgment on Mikey Keene's ability to come in and do this. And I'm not saying Mikey Keene's a bad player.
I don't think it has anything to do with Mikey's abilities to come in and do it.
Okay.
I just don't. It's stubbornness by an old football coach.
Okay.
It's just, we've gone on about this too long.
I know, but that's where we differ in opinion. And that's why it's called an opinion and everybody has one. And you know what they say about that.
Well, yeah. Okay.
And either way, we all, and let me say this.
We're going to see another quarterback before the season is over. I guarantee it.
All right. There's the prediction. There's the hot take.
I don't think that's a hot take. I mean,
well, I think that depends on how JRP does. But yeah.
But not if he's not going to pull him. It doesn't depend on how he does. It's going to depend on if he gets hurt or not at this point.
I agree with that too.
And who is it? Do you sacrifice the red shirt or do you put the guy out there that is going to transfer anyway? And it doesn't matter about his red shirt.
If it's me and it's a situation where we're ahead, no matter what, I put Mikey
not
King
ahead.
out there.
I'm not even talking about ahead at this point. What if Plumlee gets hurt? Who do you put out there? Who runs out if he gets hurt?
Castellanos.
So screw the red shirt.
Yep.
Okay.
In that situation, Castellanos, because he can run the system and he can throw the ball and he can
Why
run
do
the
you
ball.
think that Castellanos can run the system better than Mikey Keene? When Mikey Keene has been in the system for 2 years and Castellanos has been in it for about 6 months.
The only thing I have to compare is last season versus this season and what I've seen out of Castellanos. And the type of quarterback that he is and what he played in high school.
But not seeing Mikey Keene at all this season. You're set on that he can't run the offense.
Based on the information that I have and I saw high school tape for both of them.
Based on what information?
Based on the high school tape and what I've seen this season out of Castellanos. Castellanos is the future. I think that Mikey Keene.
I don't think Castellanos is the future, to be honest with you. He may be the future,
might not be.
Maybe not. I don't know. Timmy McClain sitting back there. Wait, guys, don't forget about me. Almost single-handedly beat us last year.
Yeah, speaking of
He's
Timmy
here
McClain,
for a reason.
Speaking of Timmy McClain, Bohannon goes down, and they are on their third quarterback. So that being said, I agree with you. I think Timmy McClain showed some promise, and he did that at a team that was terrible.
I think everybody's going to be surprised next year or whenever Plumlee decides
maybe.
to go.
I also know that we have a couple of folks that we're in play for that are 4 stars for quarterback position that are also the same. So who knows, right? We're upgrading ourselves.
So why would you put all your eggs in one guy's basket? This is
I'm not
my
saying
whole
that we
point.
are. But we're talking about the rest of the season. McClain is not an option this season.
I'd never
and your
said,
original question was, who do you put in for the rest of the season? I say it's
agreed with
Castellanos.
you that, but Jesus, we're just going back and forth now.
This is the same discussion that the rest of the fan base is having.
I understand.
So it's not a bad discussion. I think it's indicative of where the rest of the fan base is at, and I think
I would
100%,
love to see what Mikey King could do for a series. I would just love to see. Or Castellanos. And I don't care about either one of their freaking red shirts. I don't care about their red shirts. And if I was a football
Mikey King has
coach,
got 4 games, like you said, so it doesn't matter about his red shirt. I'm saying the reason
if you're going to keep Castellanos' red shirt, it's going to be Mikey Keene. If you're going to keep Mikey Keene's red shirt, it's going to be nobody.
I don't think we would. I think we would put Castellanos in versus Mikey Keene regardless. I think that Gus is committed. He said, this is my system, as a CEO would. And
Gus also has said Mikey Keene is the clear number 2.
I know what he said, but we haven't seen that on the field.
Have we, though? I mean,
no. We haven't seen it on the field.
We haven't seen him at all.
Right. And if I believe that Mikey Keene in any way had an opportunity to win the starting job or be competitive in the starting job, we would have seen him before Castellanos in some of these games, especially the SMU
So
game.
you don't think he even had an opportunity to play this year?
No, I think Gus said, this is my system, this is the type of player I want, and Mikey Keene's not that guy.
So you don't think that it was because of the way that he played in practice in the spring and the fall? You don't think that it was Mikey Keene's problem because of the way that he played?
I think, yes. I think that's the case when we were talking about JRP versus Mikey Keene at the beginning of the season. But I also told you that at the beginning of the season, before we even started, before the first game, that I thought that this was Gus asserting his system and saying, this is what we're doing moving forward. And the skill set that I want is JRP and Castellanos and whoever else we added, right? So I don't, Timmy McClain, right? That is not who Mikey Keene is. Okay. Run first. We're running a 60-40 split right now. When we're successful, we're running 60-40.
I don't think Mikey Keene ever had a chance either. Honestly,
I agree.
Because I think that Gus brought his guy in and Gus was stuck on, this is the guy I'm playing.
I don't think it was the guy. I think it was the system.
No, it was the guy. It was the guy. There's only one JRP. There's one.
Yeah, but
you're not going to give it to Castellanos.
You're
not going to give it to Castellanos, though.
I agree. I think there's Bo Nix. There's Michael Penix. There's
why are those guys in the conversation? Because they're not here.
Because they were the first ones he tried to get
Bo
to
Nix
transfer.
Was never coming here.
That's
he was
fine.
Never coming here. He didn't want to play for Gus again.
But no, it wasn't Gus. It was P5. Okay. That was his reason. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make, and he's at Oregon doing well, by the way. The point that I'm trying to make is JRP was like 3rd or 4th on the list. So if he would have gotten Michael Penix would be running our offense. He's in Indiana right now.
We didn't get any of those guys. So why are we even talking about them? I don't understand why we're talking about those guys.
Because you asked me that question.
What question? Who else? What question did I ask that led you to talk about the guys that aren't even here?
Because of the system. So I feel like was trying.
I'm just saying because Plumlee can run with the ball is why he's the quarterback.
I agree.
That's asinine.
It might be, but that's the reason. I feel like Gus is prioritizing system over person. That's my take. So you may not agree with it, but that's my take.
His system has to have both to work. It can't just have one, as you can see in games like this. Every game that Plumlee has been inconsistent in as a thrower, this has been a problem. More than once. Are we
talking about consistency or are we talking about system? Because he's still putting up more yards on passing than most people do. Because let's look at it from a NCAA perspective. If you look across the entire NCAA,
passing he does not rate very high.
No, but he also he's the number 1 rusher.
I understand that. So we chose his legs over his arm. We let a guy with a inconsistent and not. I don't even think, to be honest with you, when he plays inconsistently, when he's not throwing well at all, He's thrown really, really well in one game, and we saw what he could do. One game. Really, really well.
The yardage and the touchdowns would argue that point, statistically.
Okay. Well, I'm wrong. But whatever. I hate that we have an incredibly inconsistent quarterback throwing the ball.
And I agree with you that I think that, it might make some sense for him when he's having a game like this for him to sit from the sidelines a little bit and collect his thoughts and get some coaching. The question originally was, who do you put in? To me, it's Castellanos. But then you
brought up the whole red shirt thing. Oh, we have to keep his red shirt. Oh, we have to keep Mikey Keene's red shirt because he's going to transfer. Who cares?
Well, he's got 4 games no matter what. I'm saying that what I saw from it, look, if I felt like that Gus had any confidence in that and that he wasn't going to transfer, despite the fact that he says he's the number 2, he would have been playing in the SMU game, not Castellanos. That's my take.
I don't think so because, yeah, okay. Well, we will agree to disagree on this one. But I don't care who it is. I literally don't care who comes out at quarterback. But whoever it is, I want them to be consistent in whatever they do.
Okay, that's fair.
I would like a guy that could run the ball and throw the ball consistently. The one consistent thing that Plumlee has done is run the ball. I just want somebody that can do both things, not a guy that can just do one thing.
What's consistent for you? And throwing the ball. What's the percentage?
I don't know about a percentage.
Listen, if I told you...
Dude, I know. I looked at the stats. I understand. I get it. But he overthrows people consistently. He underthrows people consistently. The dropped passes, I'm telling you, has a lot to do with overthrown balls and underthrown balls. I've been telling you this the entire time.
And I've been disagreeing with you. And that's okay.
Because you know more than I do.
No, because I disagree with you. And I'm looking at it from the statistically, and I'm looking at it from the games.
Football is not all statistics, just so you know.
No, I know that.
It's a lot of intangibles.
Dude, I played too. I know.
Not at the level that I played.
No, I didn't play at the level that you played. I played basketball at the level that you played. But that being said...
Okay.
My point is, and my point this entire time has been, you take some mistakes. There's some people that have phenomenal statistics and just don't get it done in the big game. There are folks that get it done in the big game that don't have the statistics.
That sounds quite familiar, actually.
Okay.
Great statistics and don't get it done.
At the end of the day, well, I mean, look at Dylan Gabriel. This guy was up for a Heisman, and he didn't get it done here in the big game.
He was never up for the Heisman. He never finished in the top 10 of the Heisman. Never.
He was when he was at Oklahoma until he got hurt. But at the end of the day, my point is...
I don't think the Heisman ratings have come out yet at Oklahoma.
He was a top candidate for the Heisman. But anyway, at the end of the day, my point with saying all of that is, what is your threshold? If I told you the guy that
my threshold is a guy that throws freaking 3 interceptions and fumbles the freaking ball. I want him out. I want another quarterback. That's it.
I'm not disagreeing with you that it should be switched. And if it was me, it was Castellanos.
That's fine. I don't care who it is. I'm just not worried about a red shirt. I don't care who it is. It's not me. People probably think I'm just saying this because I was on Mikey Keene's bandwagon. That's not why I'm saying this. I want consistency from a quarterback. I don't want to go from 70 points and 7 touchdowns to 3 interceptions and a fumble. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. There's no reason for that to happen. I would love for somebody to figure out why. in my opinion, as a UCF fan, as a guy that's played a lot of football, that's been through it, you've got to figure out why. And figure out how to get him in the headspace or whatever to do what he's done, that he's shown what he can do. In my opinion, when somebody has a game that's that freaking horrible, and I've been on the other side of this. We've argued this before. I've been on the side of let him stay in. He needs to get his experience. Let him stay in. He needs to get his experience. But there comes a point where that's not good enough anymore. When a guy has 3 interceptions and a fumble, somebody should be watching from the sideline. Whether it's 2 plays, 3 plays, a series, or the rest of the game. I just want him to throw the ball consistently. I have no problem with the way that he runs the ball. At all. Except that he takes off a little bit quick sometimes. And he thinks about running before he thinks about throwing.
I think him not going through his progressions was this game. I agree with that. So
let's take a break and we'll come back.
Yep.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. All right, please welcome back Trey Neal. Trey, not a good time up in East Carolina. I went 34-13. What a absolute debacle. What happened in your eyes? Your first opinion, I guess, before we ask you questions about it.
I mean, I think we talked last week how the week prior was the ceiling was through the roof for this team. I think this is probably the lowest it can get. I think that's how that's the spectrum we're going to be operating on these upcoming few weeks. I think that they just played horrible. That's just the fact. I think they know it. I think the coaches know it. Just overall, it was sloppy. It was it didn't look good on either side of the ball. Yeah, I mean, we'll get a little bit more into detail.
Did we overlook ECU?
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I mean, I'm not in there, but that's what I think. Just the possibility of game day if you win, all that, that kind of stuff plays, and you kind of overlook. I think that's what happened. I think they just kind of had gotten a little bit, looking ahead to the big game coming up, which it happens, but the good teams have to take care of each game in front of them.
Is that the players' fault or the coach's fault or both?
Probably a combination of both. I don't think it's either or. At the end of the day, the players play, so they have to execute. But I don't think it was the best game plan as far as mostly offensively. I mean, just coming back from putting up 70 on what we thought was a pretty solid Temple defense to, we looked like we couldn't move the ball in. It was like Louisville again. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I think it's 50-50. Those guys are the ones making the game plan. But they have to execute it. The coaches probably thought that was a good game plan, and the players have to execute what they thought. And I didn't see either of those, so probably 50-50.
All right, Roger, you there?
I am. I know we're going to talk about this a little bit more at the top of the show. For me, I'm going to get into the stats then. It's interesting, I think we have a little bit of bias. And by that, I mean, we know what the score is. We know how we felt during that. Turnovers were really the key to this game, in my opinion. And I'll get to the reason why. Well, most of you have already heard it at this point since it's the top of the show. However, for you, Trey, we were actually pretty evenly matched with the exception of the turnovers and time of possession. So to me, those were the two biggest things for this game. We haven't had a lot of turnovers defensively. We've kind of talked about that a little bit. And my first note on here was circus catches versus circus performers. I mean, ECU had its best game of its life. You saw some of those catches that their wide receivers were making with defenders draped all over them with fairly good coverage. And then you had some circus performances, which was, dropping the ball, losing the ball, tossing it. What can the team do to get its head right again after all of that? A lot of the statistics, PFF, all of that said, hey, this was a fairly good game, but those were the two biggest differences. What can the team do to help itself? The defense, get off the field, and the offense, stop making mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to it, at the end of it was a very good game. I know the score was a little lopsided due to what you mentioned, the turnovers and the time of possession. But at the end of the day, that's what this team has been. It's either been they're just an inconsistent team as a whole. Now, there's times where the defense is playing really well or the offense is playing really well, but just putting it all together week in and week out, they're very inconsistent in that aspect. And again, I think they did play good coverage, but on some of those great catches, just me as a former player, I'm like, turn and make as far as the DBs, I'm just like, turn your head and make a play on the ball, and I know it's tough because I played it, but those guys are playing it perfect, but they're not turning around to make the play. So then the ECU players are going to turn to make the play, and that's what they're supposed to do. That's what they're on scholarship for, is to turn and make those plays, contested catches, and that's what the quarterback was really just doing. He was getting what we call big box fade, which is just the 1-on-1 and out of the slot to the sidelines, or 1-on-1s outside, and he's just throwing it up and saying, hey, go make a play. I think you're better than these guys. And that's what it was ultimately was on defense. Now, offensively, at the end of the day, JRP's just he's got to protect the football. And, I mean, we talked about it earlier. Pretty much throughout the year, when he protects the football, when he gets in rhythm, he's a great player. He can play at, just as well as anybody in the country as far as putting up numbers and as dynamic as he is. But the lows of the lows is when he gets locked in, when he kind of shuts down, he can be detrimental a little bit to the offense. And that's kind of what we saw. And I think that's just it. I think that's kind of the team right now, is just it's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah. Well, inconsistency, what does that have to do with? Is that players or coaches or both?
Yeah, I think that's both as well. But being a former player, that's something that I've seen both sides of it. I've seen when we were 0-12, we were very inconsistent in, the weight room as a group, as a team, just inconsistent in the weight room, inconsistent, during practice, what got let you get away with and things, not holding people to that standard. And then you flip it around 2 years later, there was a standard that we wanted to hold, and nobody would be below that standard. So I think that's just something as a player that, the captains have to hold those guys accountable. The captains have to, and I don't know exactly. I'm just, again, we're just assuming, but, as players, you gotta, the thing is, whatever you're doing off the field, that kind of stuff, and in the weight room and all that kind of stuff lingers into the game. It always catches back up to you, whether you whether you want it to or not. That's just one of those things where you're like, if you're not living right, it'll catch back up. So I just think that they have to, get consistent, during practice, get consistent in all the little things. And those little things that they, turn into big things, they will not have anymore. But again, I don't think it's really a coach's thing, except as far as, game plan, or if they're letting guys do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, the players have to check that. The captains can't just let guys do whatever they want. If there's something that they're supposed to be in this gap, they got to be in this gap, not I was just trying to do this, make this play. No, you have to stay in this gap. Or I was trying to run this route. No, run the route. I think that's something that the players have to hold. They have to hold people to that standard.
As a captain, what would you say to this defense? If you had the entire defense in front
that's a
of
good
you,
question.
What would you say to them?
To tell you the truth,
as a captain and as a senior out there or whatever,
I would have told them that this is not, who we've been. This isn't who we are. This is how we played defense all year. We've been playing at an elite level, and on third downs, we normally get off the field. In the red zone, we normally don't let up plays, and that was the complete opposite. So just if I were a captain, that's what I would say. I'd be like, look, buy into who we are. For the first 6 games of the year, 7 games of the year, we've been an elite defense. Let's play like an elite defense. We've known all year, JRP's hot and cold at quarterback. We know our offense is hot and cold, but we know you can rely on this defense. That's we're the backbone. We're the guys who we do the dirty work. We carry this team. That's what I would say, at least. That's what I would have said, just because that's who's been consistent throughout this season was the defense. And I think just personally as defenders, I think that 70-point game, they were like, okay, our offense has turned the corner. We don't have to, we can give up a couple of points. Well, that's not the case. These guys are going to have to, they're going to have to carry. And whatever we get from the offense is whatever we get from the offense. That's just how it's going to be. And that's just what I would have said.
Right on.
The defense
good
did.
Answer.
Yeah, I think so too. I would be I'd be behind that if I was a player as well. It's funny that you mentioned that, right? As far as head games, right? Because I think this game was a lot about head games, and I have a few questions around this. But a couple of things that I noticed on defensively is we were not maintaining the edge. One of the things that I said last week that was one of the keys to the game because of Elliott and Holt Naylor's ability to run was to protect the edges, and we were not sealing the edges. Where do you think that came from? And the other thing I saw is it felt like the blitzers themselves, when we were bringing a blitz to help out on the edge, they seemed hesitant. It was almost like they didn't know exactly where they go. Did you see anything offensively that might have confused some of the blitzers, or was that just? I mean, they weren't going full speed like we're used to seeing them go downhill. They were like literally thinking. So did you see any difference there?
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. It looked like they were just thinking too much. As far as when I remember Coach Chin used to tell us on defense, if you're thinking, you can't play. You think right until the ball snap, and then you're just reacting. It's one of those things where you have to play fast on defense because you're already playing behind. So when they were blitzing, it looked like they were hesitant, or they were looking for something that maybe wasn't there, instead of just going, balls to the wall and, making the quarterback declare, making the running back declare everything. And I think that was a little bit of the problem. Schematically, I have no idea why, again, the edges weren't set. But maybe that was the game plan, was to, funnel guys, stop them from going more inside and funnel them out. Because, I've heard of schemes like that. I don't know exactly, but I've heard of people doing that, where you just use your athletes and kind of run them down outside, but we weren't doing that. But otherwise, I'm not sure. I definitely saw a lot of hesitancy, though, on like a few of the blitzes. The guys coming off the edge, they were hesitating just a little bit. And, at this level, all you need is just a little bit of hesitation, and that can be the difference between a splash play and a terrible play. So
I would be interested to know about the team's ritual, like as far as a home game versus an away game and all that stuff, because it seems like, the majority of the games that we've lost, it doesn't just seem like it. It's pretty, well known that we lose games on the road way more than we lose games at home.
Definitely.
And I want somebody to ask Gus Malzahn, what changes between home and away? But since we can't ask him that right now, in your experience with the two teams that you've played for, were there, I guess, the same head coach though? So, well, you've played under a couple head coaches at UCF, but your two experiences at different schools were with the same head coach. But how do those things differ between, I guess, between the coaches that you played for, three coaches at UCF? How much was it different between each one?
We're going to add another coach. We played for four coaches at UCF.
No, three coaches, but two of them were at different schools, or one of them was at a different school. So I just had to turn that and make it sound like I was at least a little bit intelligent, which whatever.
So truthfully, it is different because coaches do things different. The schedules are different. That Friday can be different. I know with Coach O'Leary, the Friday was a little bit more buttoned up as far as, we get to the hotel, we eat, go through a walkthrough, go to sleep. It was like more regimented as far as, I think it was military style, which, I don't have a problem with that either because at the end of the day, we're here to win football games, so I never had a problem with that. With Frost, it was a lot more laid back, which, I also didn't have a problem with that either. I like that because we got to see our family members that were staying at the hotels, a couple of fans. You can interact and just relax, and that's what Coach Frost was, just relax. Don't let this moment get so big to where you're anxious, you're nervous, and you get scared to make a play. Just relax, be around your family. We would get to the hotel, we'd eat, and we'd just hang out. We'd have a meeting early, like that time, and we'd have our meeting before we got to the hotel, so that we didn't have to, meet at the hotel. We could just, watch film if we wanted to, talk to the coaches a little bit. It was a lot more chill. And then in Nebraska, it was more the same thing. It was a little bit more tightened up because it was the first year. They feel like every game we play is a big game against a really good, it was Big Ten at their first year on the big national stage, so they were a little bit more anxious, but it was still that same kind of loosey goosey kind of buttoned, relaxed a little bit, but just a little bit more buttoned up.
Which one did you like best?
I liked, I guess, with Coach Frost's at UCF because I liked it when everybody was relaxed. I saw it with Coach O'Leary. For me personally, it didn't faze me. I was just, be ready for the game. I never really got nervous for games except the Memphis game in the conference championship. That was probably the only game I went into kind of nervous. But other than that, I think the Coach Frost, because I wanted my guys to play their best. So I wanted them relaxed. I wanted them to, not be worried about anything, man. Like, hey, we're playing another game. Yeah, it's a big game, but, at the end of the day, it's just football, Same stuff we've been practicing, same stuff is what we're going to do on Saturday. And I think that's what Coach Frost did the best as far as the team, But again, each had their pros and cons because I remember the year that I redshirted, those seniors, they were very regimented in, let's do this, let's go to sleep. Brandon Alexander and Clayton Gathers and all of them, they were in Terrence Plummer. They were very good about that. So I've seen it work for both, and I think it just depends on your team, which one you lean to. But to me, just seeing those guys relax was the best for me.
Right on. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, okay, again, this goes back into what's going on in people's heads. I think you hit the nail on the head. JRP has a tendency to get into his own head. You can see it in his body language. When he's being successful, he's good. He's happy. Yeah. He's jumping around in the sidelines. He's doing the JRP thing. Yeah. We said this towards the beginning of the season.
I've said it all along. I have said it every single show we've done.
Definitely you have.
That he is absolutely inconsistent, and when he does something wrong, it's over. Like it's like when he threw the first interception, I was like, oh boy.
Yep.
Then the fumble, I was like, it's done. I knew it was done at the fumble for JRP. It finally started to come back towards the end because he was throwing the ball really nice towards the end, and then he threw another interception. But that's another story altogether.
And see, the thing is, to me, it's like being an older So what I would do is, because McKenzie was like this a little bit, not to the extent of JRP, but the one I remember the most was Navy game, the undefeated season. I think he just thrown a pick, and when you're playing those triple option teams, a turnover is like having 2 turnovers because they have the ball so long. And I remember he came off on the sideline, and that was the first time I had seen him like shoulders down, head down, since he was a freshman. And then we're 7 to 8 games in, and I grabbed him. I'm like, listen, man, like we're gonna get this ball back, and you're gonna go do your thing like you've been doing all year. And he was like, I got you, big bro. But like, to me, that's what somebody has to do with JRP. One of those vets on defense. Whenever he makes those mistakes, you got to tell him like, hey, we're gonna pick you up. And you're going to come back here and dominate like you've been doing, like you can show us that you can do. And I think I don't see that enough, whether it's because, maybe he doesn't have that relationship with those guys on defense yet. I don't know. I just know that that's what we used to do. That's what Shaquem used to do. That's what Jemias Pittman used to do. We never got mad at them. Yeah, well, we mad he threw an interception, of course. But we knew, what good does it do if, the quarterback's not feeling well and we're just letting him keep going down and down. I think we just are like, hey, we're going to get this ball back and you're going to go do your thing like you've been doing all year, like you did last week. And I think if they would have done that, I think that's the kind of thing that, confidence is everything in this sport. And I think, if you let his confidence get up, he's a great player, like you said. And I think that's what they're missing is somebody just to, be like, hey, you're good, man. Don't worry about it. Keep moving forward. But I also think it's harder just because, you have Mikey Keene sitting behind him. Not saying that Mikey's a bad player, but it's harder with that behind him, It's harder with Casanello's looking so great sitting right behind him. And guys are like, hey, play him. JRP's not throwing well. Why do we have Mikey sitting here? Play Mikey, and I see it on Twitter all the time, so I know guys see it. But it's much harder because that's not how it was with KZ. We were, we had Noah, who was a freshman, and DJ. But other than that, it was ride or die with him. So I think it's a different situation. But in the same breath, somebody on defense has to pick up, pick him up, or one of his teammates got to pick him up. Like, hey, we believe in you.
Somebody, yeah. Please. I said earlier, I was responding to a tweet, and I said I would do anything for a consistent game from JRP. It's either feast or famine. He has to gain confidence early because when he does, he's on fire. I've been saying this for a while. They need to script plays to get him in going fast. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and I understand. I mean, I get it. I get the part about like your brain has to be 100% there. You have to be 100% focused. And I feel like you said earlier, this team wasn't focused on either side of the ball. Mm-mm. But especially on the offensive side of the ball, JRP just absolutely was not focused.
Yeah. And the fumble was just, we've been saying he just needs to be a little bit more protected, which I think that's an easier fix. Just, hey, JRP, slide.
I bet he'll hold on to the ball a little bit better instead of, he had it in his arm, but mean, when you're getting hit, put 2 hands on it,
or just slide. Like that's what blows my mind personally.
It seems like he wants to look cool out there and do a dance and everything else. And man, he runs the ball awesome most of the time. I mean,
he does.
But man, I'm so mad.
I'm still so mad. The beautiful thing about quarterback is if you slide, we can't hit you. Like they teach every offensive position to fight for yards. The quarterback, we're going to hit you, but every other position we're not going to hit you. And if you even look like you're going to slide, we're probably going to pull up just because we don't want to get a flag if we accidentally do hit you. So like to me, it's like you got the first down. Unless you think you can score, or to me, if the game's on the line, that's when you give your body up. But if it's just early in the game, first down, just slide, take the yards, live to play another play. You got the yards. And I think that's something that's an easier fix as far as telling them that. To me, the interceptions those are just, to me, I'm not understanding it. I don't know if they're predetermined throws, which that's what they look like. Because to me, some of these throws he's throwing right to people.
Well, yeah, I
don't know, but like the first interception, I'm like, that linebacker didn't move from the throwing window. Like, that should either be a give or pull, but that's not a throw. Like, you shouldn't throw it because he's not budging. He sat right there, but that's neither here nor there.
And then the second one, this is one that I remember because I watched it and I watched it over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, what's his name? Tight end. Holler was down there like wide open, short, like just past the line of scrimmage for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he meant to throw it to him, but overthrew it, like threw it high and over. I don't really think that he meant to send it to the guy on the.
Yeah, it looked like he sailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the last one, I don't really care for the last one. That one's
not that last. No, this one was the second one.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. He sailed it over Holler. Yep.
Yeah, and it, the TV guys and all that were like, oh, well, he was trying to get it to this guy. No, I don't think he shouldn't have been, because Holler was standing there literally looking at him wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he sailed it over his head. And this is what I've been saying too. The inconsistency of his throws, it's unbelievable. I guess just in general for this team, why it is so frustrating. And this has been the theme of this interview so far, is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
We know what they can do. It's so frustrating because we know what they can do when they're on fire, when everybody's playing together, when everybody's having a good time, when everything is hunky-dory, everybody's playing kumbaya, and they go out there and they put 60 points on somebody, 70 points. And then you get this, what we had the other night, which if you look at the stats, if you look at everything, it wasn't horrible, but the execution was not great. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It was turnovers. That's something we haven't had all season.
Of course, the turnovers, but that turnovers have to do with consistency as well.
Yep. I mean, he has turned the ball in. He's turned the ball over a lot this year. Not necessarily that lead to interceptions, I guess, or fumbles, but he does make risky throws. And we saw that from the beginning of the year. I remember him making the throw in double coverage against, I forgot the team we played. South Carolina State, was it?
11 touchdowns.
Insert team here, because he's done it almost every
11
single game.
touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and like 2 fumbles.
Yeah, so
at least.
So I just remember that the first game we talked about, like, hey, when you start playing, really good teams, that completion that you completed in double coverage is going to be an interception, or it's not going to be there. And I think that's the worrisome thing to us is, and again, he has a ways to go as far as developing as a true thrower of the football. He only has one velocity right now, which is, he's a baseball thrower. That's what it looks like.
Right.
As far as, accuracy, layering the football, touch on the football, he has work in that area. I think, like we've said from the beginning, I think Gus, just what he brings with his feet is so dynamic. You almost have to have it because it opens up so much for the offense. But what we're starting to see is if you can't throw it, it almost doesn't matter because we're essentially running. It's almost like we're just running Wildcat with a little bit more, a little bit more extra to it. If you can't throw the ball consistently, that's really all you're doing.
Right.
And I think that's where he has to get better at, is just consistently with throwing. And again, I don't think that's something you can work on, during the season. I think it's so much game plan that you can't work on those layer type of throws, those touch type of throws, those, going through progressions. I just think there's not enough time in the week to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and you said this too, and I was going to bring this up too, is, I don't see anybody picking him up on the team. And I don't know, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Is that because a lot of these guys, a lot of the starters are transfer players? Like, your teams were built over time, right? You guys were together for 2 or 3 years, and, you went through tough times together. You went through 2015 together, and then 2016, and then finally 2017, it all kind of came together. Do you feel like some of this, and then the reason we don't have strong leadership or captains on this team is because a lot of these players are transfer portal players, are great individual players, but they haven't yet come together as a team?
I think that has a little bit to do with it. And mostly because, like you said, that 2017 team, like, people forget, we had Mike Hughes transfer in, and Mike Hughes was a great player, but he wasn't the vocal leader guy. And I think that's another thing that made him great was he knew, like, hey, I can't come in here and kind of tell these guys what to do. You know what I'm saying? Even though he was great, but he knew that. And I think that's where the time and age is different. You know, a lot of these guys, like you're saying, they are transfer portal guys. But again, you do have the Ryan O'Keefe. You do have the Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste. To me, those are the guys that have been here since they were freshmen. Those are the ones that should be saying something. You know, you don't have to be a rah-rah bad guy as far as leadership. No, it's just when you see your team down or you see your quarterback down, lift them up. You know, as far as JPP, you see your DB struggling, be like, hey, man, like, I've seen you do it in practice. You can do it. Just do it. Like, trust yourself. It's those kind of comments that, you know, you have to make. Because, again, I've experienced both. When I went to Nebraska, as much as I knew about the defense, offense, everything, I knew I could not be the same leader I was when I was at UCF there because I hadn't earned that right yet. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have the value or I hadn't put in the hours of the program. So I knew the only way I could earn these guys' trust is being one of the guys, going out with them, hanging out. If they wanted to watch film, tell them. That was the first thing I did. I was like, listen, if any of you guys want to watch film on anything, let me know. Like, I'm going to be up here all the time anyway. Like, just come out, holler. And of course, there's a little bit of reluctancies, but as the time got there, you know, they started to trust you. And you have to build that trust. So, and I was just one transfer. Like, now with the transfer portal, it's 5, 6, 7 guys who are coming in with valuable roles doing it. So I know it's so much harder, but again, you have those guys that, you know, like Ryan O'Keefe. He saw it with the Marlon Williams, with the Adrian Killens, all those guys here. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste. He saw it with, you know, Richie Grant and Aaron Robinson, and he was a transfer, but he was there a long time. And you know, all those guys, he saw it. So, like, to me, it's like those core guys have to step up and say something.
So going forward, all right, so we've gone through this game. You know, they always say you have 24 hours to, you know, feel the loss or whatever, and then you move on.
Uh-huh.
Where are their headspaces now that they're coming into a huge game at home at Cincinnati? Where do you think their headspace is now as a team?
You know, if they want to be the team again, I don't think they can still win conference, and a New Year's Six bowl is still in the picture, which that was always our. You know, those were our goals.
I don't think it is if they lose to Cincinnati, though.
Yeah, of course not. And I think that's where they have to know. They just have to know, like, hey, if we want to win conference, like we said, if that's our goal, we can't lose any more conference games. And we're going to have to go through Cincinnati. You know, these are going to be tough teams and tough games. We're going to have to go to Cincinnati. We're going to have to go to Memphis and beat Memphis. We're going to have to beat Tulane, who's a ranked team. You know, like, that's the reality of the situation. And I hope they have that conversation. But again, like, yeah, you flush it, keep it moving. You know, I think this is the perfect 2 weeks that could have happened. You know, you can say we can either be this one team who, when we're consistent, we're on fire, or we can keep messing up and we're going to be this team that just lost to ECU and we can lose out all the games. But right now we have to make a choice on who we want to be. And I think that's the conversation that, you know, those leaders, I hope that those leaders are having. And again, we only want the best for those guys, you know, but they're going to have to have some leadership and guys are going to have to step up. And those leaders this is where, you know, tough times is what makes, you know, great leaders and great people, you know. And then right now I think this is one of those times because it's about to get, this stretch of games is going to be rough right here.
Yeah, it's do or die. I mean, you know, now 2 losses is not a good place to be in college football. I don't care what conference you're in, what team you're on, you know, it doesn't matter. No. 2 losses are not
with
good.
Our expectations of a program, 2 losses that's the max we want to have a year, you know. With where our program's gone trajectory-wise, we don't ever really want to lose more than 2 games a year.
Yeah, I would put it at 0, but that's high expectations. But yeah.
Just as far as expectations and where we want to be, you know, if we want, like we said last week, if we want to be a team that can win a national championship, you can't win a national championship losing 2 games realistically, not with, you know, all these other teams. That That's just me. If I think that we can get to that point, you can't lose these Louisville games, where, we're not playing well, we did this. You can't lose to ECU on the road. Not how we lost, not by 21 points. If you lose off of like a Hail Mary or you lose by 3 on the road, that's one thing. But losing how we lost, that's not what, a top 25 program does, in my opinion. You don't lose those kind of games.
Yeah. Well, another way we lost, I'm going to bring this up. Time of possession. Holy Moses.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 minutes, man.
10 minutes total there. So almost the entire first quarter they had the ball. After, because we gave it back to them 3 times, or at least twice in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. And the defense did well there. Like we want to point that out. Like that, it was like a 3-point game after those 3 possessions, and they stopped them. So
the defense is holding up.
They had an Obarski a couple times on their side, but yeah, they bowed up and they played well. But to your point, Andrew, I mean, we've been leading time of possession by a minute or so all season long, and then this game we're down 10 minutes. That's got to wreak havoc on the defense and their ability to stop folks and take some wind out of their sails. So, if you experience something like that, and you of all people should know that the 2017 team, our time of possession was not our forte.
No,
we
it
were
was
going
not.
so
Absolutely.
fast on offense. So how much harder is it as a defense when that starts happening and you've got that big of a deficit?
It's 10 minutes harder.
Exactly. It starts to wear on you. I mean, especially when, like you're saying, the 2017 team, we played so many snaps on defense. We would always try to keep guys fresh early. That way we had them late. And that's the thing. Like, we're going to start – the depth has to be there to do that. We had – when I was playing – the guy, like I said, our backups are now they're starting to be NFL guys. Like, they're NFL guys now, or they're potential NFL guys. So we had that ability to do that. But even then, they were still freshmen that you can't fully trust them in those kind of games. You want to do that where you can, get guys some breathers when you're up by, 7 points, 10 points. Hey, go in there real quick, give this guy a breather, and that's where, when you're down by a touchdown, you don't really want to put in your young guys, because if you don't trust them fully, you can go from down 7 to down 14 quit in one play. So and that's where it starts to take a toll, and I think that's what happened truly on our defense. I think that they were playing great, and then just over time they're not used to playing that long on the field, playing that many snaps, which again, that's not an excuse. I don't think, you should always, that was never an excuse for us. We knew our offense could score fast, but we knew that we're going to have to play a lot more defense because our offense can score fast. This instant, our offense couldn't get anything done, so we're going to have to play a lot more defense, and that's – you just have to hold yourself to a standard, and I think that's what those guys have to do. Specifically just defense is, hey, like I said earlier, we're carrying this team. We got to hold ourselves to the standard of the billing that we are. You want to be an elite defense, you need to carry your team in these rough patches. You have to carry your team in these rough patches. So, 10 more minutes on the field, but that's 10 more minutes of opportunities to change the game. That's 10 more minutes of opportunities to make a splash play or a turnover, and I think that's where they're kind of lacking as well, is getting turnovers on the defensive end when we need turnovers. It's easy when we're up, 14 points because the game script's different on the other team. But when you're down, we got to go make plays, man. That's just how I am. Somebody's got to go make plays.
And the crazy thing about it was that we both teams had 69 snaps. So, that defense was on the field longer, 10 minutes longer, right, than our defense was, or their defense was, which, they had more third and longs. Their third down percentage was much higher than what previous folks were. We just weren't getting off the field. So it was 64.29% this game, whereas before it was 30%. So
exactly,
getting off the field, and then the turnovers themselves. I mean, we were moving the ball, and then we would turn them over when we got within the 20 or 30-yard line. So it's like, the efficiency of our offense was actually better than what what ECU's was. We just had the turnovers, but the big thing was it's crazy to think that they had the same number of plays, 69, which is not a lot for us, and they still had the ball 10 minutes longer. That's crazy.
Because
they were driving.
They bled clock off, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to say is just defensively, I saw a lot of the third downs, like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. We were running man coverage, and we're not even pressing the guys at the line of scrimmage, and they're just catching the ball, throwing little 5-yard slants, catching the ball fall down. That's first down. Like, to me,
he was getting the ball out quick. One read. Yeah, that's the difference, I think, between JRP and Holt Nailers, who's been there for 17 years, right? Yeah. He knows he can read the defense. He knows exactly where he's going to go on his first read and be successful and get the ball out.
Exactly.
JRP.
Yeah, and that's frustrating.
He didn't have multiple reads. Like the last few games, you saw him go through multiple progressions. Like SMU, he went through multiple progressions and he hit the 3rd or 4th guy. This game, he was still on the one guy, but he didn't go through his progressions. And I think that's the difference between someone like Holt Nailers, who's the doctor of football, versus JRP, who's still learning.
Exactly, and that's a bigger difference than a lot of people. Again, that a lot of people don't see. That's the upstairs battle of quarterback. That, to me, that's the most important thing you can be as a quarterback. Yeah, like, it's great if you have all these athletic traits, but sometimes just knowing where to go with the football off the coverage you see, knowing the down and distance, that can be the best thing for an offense because, again, you're moving the chains, wearing down the defense. And that stuff takes a toll. But again, to me, I don't understand why we're even playing off coverage on 3rd and 4 because that's all they want is just these 4 yards to, like, challenge the receivers. That was something I was talking to Causey about during the game. Like, why are these guys not challenging the receivers? And it's 3rd and 4. Like, this quarterback is easy at just catching the ball, making a quick read and throwing it. Like, he's not horrible. Like, just go challenge him.
But we've been doing that all season, dude. I mean, remember, we've been talking about this and them giving them, so much space. And the whole concept and thought process behind it was, hey, we're going to rely on our guys. Because we were talking about them playing zone early. And they've kind of switched it up the last 2 games where they're not playing zone early. And then if, he's getting the ball out before the defense can get pressure on him, although we did get pressures on him.
We did,
Yeah, at the end of the day, if he's just going to his first read or because he understands what the defense is trying to do, and we're giving him space because we're trying to cover over the top because we're going cover 0 or cover 1. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, we've got guys that are playing good defense and can run with them, but then are not looking back for the ball. If you've got a good, accurate, consistent quarterback, which he threw for over 80% in this game.
Oh, yeah, he was very accurate.
Completion percentage.
Yeah, he was very accurate.
I mean,
even on some of
that's ridiculous.
The jump balls. Yeah, I mean, even like the back shoulder fades and the jump balls, he was throwing the ball to where his guys could make plays, and they were making plays. But he was very accurate. And again, the only way you can beat that to me is you have to either pressure him or the DBs gotta turn around and make a play. And especially when you're losing, like. That's just me. Like, yes, when you play DB, you can get beat. You're gonna get beat. I thought Mike Hughes was one of the best players to ever come through UCF, and I saw him get beat. Like, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter who you are because you're playing college football. Most of these guys are guys who are just as good as you. So you have to be able to know when to take risks. Know, okay, I get this, where the ball's gonna be. I just think those guys are not taking those risks. Again, a PBU is great, but if you're not turning around and making a turnover, like what's the point? Like, to me, like a 50-50 ball, it means 50% on the receiver or 50% for you. Like, if you're not turning your head, then you're not even giving yourself a chance.
Yeah, and I've had enough with that. I mean, that's getting old. It wasn't a big deal at first to me with them not turning around because I kind of know what they're trying to do, but now this game kind of proves that they need to do that more, in my opinion. Because I've been vocal about saying that that's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. But you saw it in this game. I mean, there were
when
many
it's those
opportunities.
50-50 balls, you gotta go make a play, man. I mean, it's not like they were getting, and it's not like they're getting beat like badly either. Like they're all right there on the ball. Their hands close to the receiver. It's just they're not turning around to make the play. Which again, it's not easy to do, but I know they're practicing it because everybody in the country is practicing it as DB. Right. Like you just got to do it, and you have to be comfortable to do it.
You talk about a 50-50 ball. 83.33% on 36 pass attempts.
Yeah, that's
just a good night. I mean, it's very tough. I mean, we already dug ourselves a hole with the 3 turnovers, right? Yep. And that some of them came early, and we were still within striking distance. We were within a touchdown in the third quarter, right?
Exactly.
But 83.33 plus 3 turnovers, and a lot of them, like the 3 turnovers were near the end zone. I mean, were touchdown, and then you had that drop early.
Yeah.
3 drops again this game versus no drops last game. Yeah. And JRP was still 68%.
Yep. I mean,
normally that wins you games.
That's the new age of football, man. It almost doesn't matter, and that's why people are teaching defense the way they are. They're just saying, hey, if you can get turnovers, you're going to get your team the ball again. Because, again, if JRP doesn't get those turnovers, and say we scored touchdowns on those plays, that's 21 points. That's a completely different game. And
it makes them play from behind.
It is, exactly. And it keeps the offense under structure where you can run the ball. It keeps it on balance. But turnovers are everything. And that's what football is turning into. It's who can get the ball. In this game, ECU got the ball 3 more times, because of those turnovers. And that's where, again, if Holton Ayers is going to complete 83%, those incomplete passes that he's not completing, they have to be turnovers. They can't just be PBUs for defense. They have to be getting the ball back because he's almost completing everything. That's insane. You're almost completing. You're
6
completing
passes.
Yeah, so half of those passes need to be turnovers as a defense. If you're going to complete 83% passes, we need 3 interceptions. That's just the reality of it. You can't just have 6 incompletions because he's moving the ball at will at that point.
All right. We know you got stuff to do, so we're going to cut this a little bit short. We do need to know your prediction for next week, though, for the score between UCF and Cincinnati. Big game, even if it's not on game day, blah, blah, blah. It's huge. Huge game.
It's huge. I'm going to say UCF. I think we're going to win, of course. I'm going to say UCF 30, Cincinnati 24.
Okay.
I think it'll be close. If we're going to win, it's going to be close. We're going to have to play some ball today because Cincinnati's a good team.
Yeah. All righty.
30-24.
All right, 30-24. You got that, Roger?
I do.
All righty. Well, I know you have some plans tonight. Happy anniversary there. You're celebrating that, I believe. So,
my last one too.
Thank you for including us in your anniversary night, and apologies to the missus.
Yeah.
No. It's luckily it's the last one. So until July, and then it'll just be a July thing. So I'll always have football.
Oh, hold on. Are we dropping some breaking news here?
No, not nothing breaking, but yeah.
I mean, to the audience anyway, they don't know.
Yeah, last one in October, and then it'll be a July thing moving forward. So,
all right. So you're getting married in July.
Some advice.
You're getting married in July, basically. So everybody understands this is your anniversary of like getting together, not your wedding anniversary.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make everybody clear so they weren't as confused as Roger tried to make it there.
Well, what I was going to say was make sure you watch some Mike Leach videos as you kind of get closer because he's got some interesting advice with regard to weddings.
Really?
I think he's got a $10,000 dude. He's got $10,000 out there to anyone who will elope versus actually going through with a wedding. So you kind of want to watch those videos.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I will definitely do that.
Mike Leach has interesting advice to anyone for anything.
Yeah,
exactly. That
guys,
dude's amazing. You want to waste like an afternoon, go watch some Mike Leach videos. That guy is hilarious. He's
well, we don't want to make Trey waste any more time with us. So, all right, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I know we're all disappointed.
Hey, bounce back.
Yep.
24 hours, and let's keep moving.
All right, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. See you guys.
See ya.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
All right. I think we've talked more than enough about this ECU game and who's going to come in at quarterback if they need to and all that stuff for right now. I almost
Jazz.
Yeah. I got a migraine at this point. Like I need to follow the 24-hour rule, but it's hard when we do this show 48 hours after. But anyway, I need to stop being pissed off about this now, though, and just hope that everybody gets their stuff together for the Cincinnati game. So, Roger, tell us. I've seen maybe a couple of series of a Cincinnati game this year. I don't know much about them. All I know is that one guy that was their quarterback's not there anymore. So
yeah, so you're right. It's a different team, right? So this game Saturday, 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. So linear network. I encourage everybody to be there. I will be standing in the cabana.
I'll be there too.
They're coming off of a close win at SMU that saw a team that lost their 5-star quarterback, and they still only won barely, and they barely beat the Cows. I almost said the acronym. 28-24, right? So at the end of the day, what I saw watching that game, because I actually did watch the game that they played, this is not the same Cincinnati team. They've been plagued with penalties. Last game, they were 14 for 128. They're undisciplined, not what we're used to seeing. They don't have turnovers, and they do get turnovers. So they don't make a whole lot of mistakes there. Their QB is sitting at 63%. His name is Brian. He's got 1,761 yards to JRP's 1,812.
Is it Brian Bryant, by the way? It's Bryant.
Correct.
Is it really Brian Bryant? Oh, no, Ben Bryant.
Ben Bryant, correct. So it's BB. We're just going to call him BB. We won't care after this game because we're going to beat them.
Brian Bryant would be horrible. Anyway, where did he come from? He's a senior.
Yes, 15 TDs to 6 interceptions, but that should tell you everything you should need to know. I mean, if he's a senior and he's been sitting that long.
Has he been warming the bench, or is he a transfer? That's what I was asking.
Warming the bench. So he was next up.
Interesting.
This is a revenge game for us. Obviously, Gus is going to be hyper-focused on this, and I think maybe we were looking ahead a little bit. Last year, as a reminder, we lost 56-21 at Cincinnati. However, this game will be at home, so I expect a full bounce house and 2018 vibes. They're currently ranked number 19, are 6-1 and 3-0 in conference. They run their offense through their tight end and have a pretty good inside run game, which works with us because we have good defensive tackles. So I expect us to be able to handle that. UC allows 22 points per game, so this is not the same defense that we saw in the past. However, they still run that 3-3-5, so they're good against the pass. So this is going to be a challenge for JRP when it comes to passes. So I'm hoping that we stick with the short passing game, crossing routes, quick hitters, basically, to keep them off balance and us out of trouble. We should be able to run the inside run game on them. It'll take a while to bring the defenders up in that 3-3-5, and with them playing further back, it's more about stopping, kind of like us, stopping that it's that bend not break defense and stopping the outside run. So we are only allowing, conversely, 17.1 points per game. Even with that ECU loss. I'll let Andrew talk about the matchup predictor. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Well, yeah, the matchup predictor says that we have a 60.4 chance to win this game. They're at 39.6. The spread right now is Cincinnati being favored by 1 point, which is kind of weird. You don't see that a lot, and that would, on the road. So it's gone back and forth a couple of times. It has changed. It almost, actually, if I look now on the pick center, it is even right now.
So it moved a little bit
still
back.
Needs to update their thing. I've seen it 1.5. Yeah, but not feeling good as a underdog, even if it's by 1 point. I don't like that. I never like that.
Well, really, it's 4, right? Because if it's 3, they give 3-point advantage automatically to everyone at home. So it's really the Vegas is calling it a 4-point favorite, essentially for Cincinnati.
In the team rankings, they rank lower than we do. 26.9. We're at 28.9. When it goes to rankings. So that's interesting. And then did you say they're number 19?
Correct.
They're 20 in the AP poll. In the coaches poll, they're 19, yeah. So they're actually ranked 20.
So they average 36.9 points per game. So they have a relatively potent offense. Although the last 3 games, they only scored 31, 29, and 28. UCF averages 37.3 after last week's game. Yards per game, 427, which is less than ECU versus our 511. They allow 305 yards per game versus UCF's 356. So we still end up ahead when it comes to yards per game. They average 160 yards rushing versus our 242. This is very similar to ECU. The points per game, pass yards per game, 267 versus our 264. They're going to lean a little more heavily on the passing game, which means that we need to get after them as far as the defensive line is concerned. They allow 120 rush yards per game and 185 through the air. They're pretty stingy defensively. Keys for me on this game, just to be quick about it, limit the mistakes.
Real quick, let's talk about our common opponent that we've had, though. They've played SMU and we've played SMU. We beat SMU 41-19. They beat SMU by 2 points, 29-27.
And that was with a backup quarterback for at least a half because Tanner Mordecai went out. He was injured.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
well.
Even with Tanner Mordecai injured. Listen, when I watched the Cincinnati team, I looked at the sideline and there was no energy whatsoever like that team. This is a team that's been winning, but they've been barely winning the last few games. I expect us, if we come out hyped and we come up ready to go, I expect this is a team that we can beat. And if the fans come out, it's going to make it really tough on them because they don't seem like they're a confident team. So if we limit mistakes, get pressure, keep the penalties down, we know that they're going to have a lot of penalties, which will give us second chances. And we already have a high third down percentage. If we can convert those, we're going to keep them off balance. If we can establish the run inside the tackles with that against that 3-3-5 and hit the short routes, crossing, drag, screen, quick dig, out routes, and get out the ball, get the ball out fast, and JRP some confidence, I think we'll be in good shape. This has the potential to be a blowout game.
Yeah, on either side.
No, I honestly really feel good looking at Cincinnati the last 2 games and what their sideline looks like. If we handle business, I feel like this could be a blowout of Cincinnati.
That's the big if, though. That's the whole question. Like,
I agree.
What UCF team shows up? Does the UCF against Temple show up, or does the UCF against ECU show up? That's going to tell the story of the game.
And Temple statistically
which
has a better
Plumlee
defense.
shows up is even bigger. So I don't know.
I'm hoping Gus puts him in a position where we've been very successful and we've built off of is when we get short passes relatively early, and if he can go to his first read with them playing a 3-3-5, which means their linebackers are playing a little bit back, and their linebackers versus our skill players. Our players should win that. Should win that battle every single time. So if we can do that and get him rolling a little bit, and keep them on their heels, we start running with our inside the tackles ground game. I feel like this could be a breakout game for us.
All righty. Well, let's hope so. We can talk about it here in the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. All right, Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. I forgot to mention, the intro got weird and everything. I forgot to mention that Ben is not with us tonight. He had some other previous commitments that he had made and all that. So we miss you, Ben. Obviously, you'll be back next week, blah, blah, blah. But I forgot to mention it, so I just now I was like, oh, man. In the little break there, I was like, I forgot to mention that Ben wasn't on the show at all this
Ben,
week.
we had to carry the entire show, and you saw what happens.
Yeah, you saw what happens. We were arguing and yelling and all kinds of stuff.
We said this in the break, right? But I feel like folks, if you've gotten to this part of the show and you've made it all the way through, this is UCF's fan base right now, right? It's frustrated. It's at the same time, it's like, okay, where do we go from here? What do we expect? And it's like looking at it. Okay, if you look at it from the analytics side, if you look at it from how we feel after that game, I feel like that's what you got in this show.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I hope people think that. All right. So Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Go ahead, Roger.
All right. So let's do a quick recap. We were all wrong last week. Every single one of us. AP, you had, obviously the game was 13-34. AP, you had us at 56-14. I had us at 42-28. Ben had us at 38-24. And Trey, went out of his way and went 45-17. So we were all wrong.
Who was the closest, though?
Who was the closest? That's a good question. The closest to the pin was actually me this week. I was 34 points off. Ben was 35 points off, so I'm slowly making up some ground. As if you guys are following along, you know that we're pretty close. Trey had a complete, he's allowing us to catch up this game, unlike last game. So he had 52 points. He was off by 52 points, and AP, you're off by 63. So unfortunately, you did bring up the caboose again. However, it allowed us to make up some ground on Trey. Although, as of last week, whoever wins buys steak. So I'm hoping, I think he's got a comfortable enough lead that we will all enjoy the steak dinners. So for the season, it's actually getting a little closer. AP, you were at 201. I am next up at 154. Ben has 151, so there's a tight race there. And Trey is at 131. Like I said, he allowed us to make up quite a bit of ground. So for this week, AP.
Well, let's go ahead and, because no, that's not how it works. Go ahead and talk about Trey's.
Okay.
Real quick, and then Ben sent us his in a text message as well. So go ahead with both of those first.
Okay,
and then
so this
you
is
go
interesting.
After that, I'll go last.
Okay, this is interesting. So Trey, for this week, as you heard, he is at 30-24. As a reminder, with UCF winning, obviously we're always going to say that UCF wins because that's what we believe. We believe in our Knights. Ben has a really interesting score. I think he's got a safety in there somewhere, 23-21. So low scoring affair for Ben. For me, I have us at 35-28 winners. I'd like to think our defense is a little bit better than SMU. And AP, you want to give your hot take of the week this week?
What was yours?
Mine was 35-28.
Okay. I'm going to say this comes down to a field goal this week. So, I don't know how we're going to get there. 30. Yeah. I'm just going to, off the top of my head, 34-31. I guess it would be 34-31.
So we're all predicting a one-score game, one way or the other.
And I'm thinking it's a field goal. And I think Boomer has got the leg.
We didn't even talk about that last game. He did well against ECU, one of the bright spots.
Well, he's done great so far. I mean, I am not complaining too much. He's missed a couple, I think, maybe one or two, but better than Orbowski, or however you say his name. I'm probably saying it wrong still.
No. You got it. After 4 years, you've got it correct.
He hasn't been here for 4 years, but anyway.
3.5.
Okay. All right, well, that does it for the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, congrats to UCF's women's soccer, now 8-2-4 and winners of the AAC regular season title after defeating conference mates ECU. Wish we could have done that in football. Contender Houston at home also beat contender Houston at home 1-0. The team will play on Thursday at 7 p.m. at the Cows Pasture to finish off the regular season and move on to the conference championships.
All right, and UCF men's soccer is now 6-5 overall and 3-4 in conference after defeating number 13 Charlotte at home 2-1 for a huge win. I mean, that was a big deal. The team has 2 games left and are scheduled to play at Tulsa on Friday at 7 p.m.
No, they're losing that game because we never win at Tulsa in anything. So. UCF women's volleyball is now back to number 25 and 17-1 after sweeping the Cows in Cincy 3-0. The team is now 9-1 in conference and looks to be almost unbeatable. Meanwhile, Claudia Dillon was named the AAC Player of the Week. Talk about highs and lows. The team will play next week at Tulsa at 5 p.m. on Friday. The ladies scored the first 3 points of the last War on I-4 series. Congrats. That sounded a little bit weird because I skipped something that Roger threw in there. So
Ben wasn't here this week, so we didn't get our Kansas poke and prod in there this week.
I'm not going to contribute to that. We lost our starting quarterback, so it's not happening. It was too good to be true, exactly like I thought it was. So not really looking forward to the rest of the season with that. So hopefully, I don't know, hopefully he comes back miraculously or something. All right, this has been Knightline 280. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
Charge on to the field. With our spirits we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. Be a CTO or Y. Tonight our knights will shine.